the circus that is the San Diego Padres in the year of our Lord 2023. Welcome to Ben & Woods 97.3, The Fan. Great to be here with you this morning. My name is Stephen Woods. I go by Woodsy, and I have for most of my life. And to my right is Paul Reindl. He's our executive producer. Good morning, Paulie.
Morning.
Good morning. And to Paulie's right, it would be Benjamin R. Higgins, your friendly neighborhood sports anchor. Good morning, Benjamin.
Good morning. Some people like the circus.
Some people really do. I do not. I've never been a huge circus fan.
Not my favorite either. I see where you're going, though, when it comes to the Padres. Because weren't we told like 2 weeks ago what was going to happen, and Bob Melvin and A.J. Preller were coming back next season?
You were told.
I was told.
Yeah, you believe. Embarrassing. Come on, sweetheart. You're such a sweet, naive soul, and breaks my heart that you have to work with such a cynical turd like me. And I just, we'll get into all of it. We'll get into all of it today. Obviously, my favorite DM that I got yesterday, and I tweeted this, and it made me laugh. I'm not making fun of this guy at all. But he sent me an article dropped yesterday. Again, I have to remember, not everybody knows the news. There are people tuning in this morning. What the hell are you guys talking about? So if you haven't heard the news, yesterday an article dropped in The Athletic from Dennis Lynn and Andrew Baggerly, who works, he's the beat writer for the Giants, said that Bob Melvin will be allowed to interview with the division rival San Francisco Giants. And many of us thought that this was going to happen. A lot of people kind of said no. I don't think it's going to happen. Everyone has said they're coming back, and everything's copacetic. Well, I'm sitting there yesterday, and I get a DM from a guy, and he sends me the article, and he goes, "This needs to be addressed tomorrow," and I hearted it when I wanted to write back, buddy. Do you know who you're talking to? Like, everything I had planned is now on the back burner. All these hot, spicy takes. I was going to come in here this morning. I was going to rip Brady Hoke. I was going to absolutely roast Lincoln Riley, a.k.a. Howdy Doody. I was going to go ham on Major League Baseball, Adolis Garcia, Brian Abreu. We have all this good stuff.
Probably talk about the Loyal and their disappointing end last night. I was watching that whole thing.
All this stuff is percolating. The fact that the Aztecs go out and drop a game to a team that hasn't won, they get shut out at home. 16 games in a row they'd lost. You didn't score 1 point. Your quarterback had 47 yards passing.
It's like the worst defense in college football.
In the year 2023, you have a quarterback that can't throw for 50 yards. All of this was just simmering inside me all weekend. And then I got the DM and said, this needs to be addressed tomorrow. Your GD Ryan's going to be addressed tomorrow, which is now today. So, holy cow. But hey, keep sending me ideas for content. I do enjoy them very much. We obviously are going to talk about this Bob Melvin, A.J. Preller, San Diego Padres situation for probably most of the day today. Other than that, gentlemen, other than yesterday, it was such a nice weekend. It was beautiful outside.
It was gorgeous.
It was
out
gorgeous.
there.
Not foreplay. We're just getting right into it here.
Yeah. So I mean, other than that news yesterday, how was everyone's weekend? I want to stretch it out a little bit. We have plenty of time.
I had a great weekend. It was beautiful out, especially yesterday morning. Got to spend the time out at Deanza Cove at Mission Bay. I was emceeing the Walk to Find a Cure for ALS, which was amazing. Just amazing people. Just the courage of the people who have ALS there, the caregivers, the family members, the doctors, and the researchers who are continuing to look for a cure to what is just such a tragic, horrible, debilitating disease. And you saw the entire San Diego State basketball team was out there.
Amazing, man.
Got to talk with Tier 1 Coach Fisher, who said, yeah, still listen every single morning.
Oh, God.
Sorry, Coach.
Coach Fisher's still out there. He's part of our Tier 1 army.
I hate that he listens. When Ben told me that, my mind goes back to all of the disgusting sexual innuendo jokes that Ben tells and that we all have to
felt like there was
play along.
Bare asset.
Right.
2,000 or 3,000 people out there. It was such a great turnout, and they are still looking to try to find a cure. This is something, I mean, this is Lou Gehrig's disease. This is what took Lou Gehrig from us, and in a century almost now, they still don't really know how to fight it. There's new treatments, there's some better developments, but in terms of the cure, they're still working and still trying to fight it. And every day they hope they get a little bit closer to fighting it. Of course, Steve Fisher's son, Mark Fisher, is battling ALS and has been continuing to work as an assistant for Brian Dutcher during that time. But it takes a real village, and learn some big facts and figures. It costs about $250,000 a year for a family to care for someone with ALS, and just the cost in this country is hundreds of millions of dollars a year. And then they want to spend more on research, obviously. So it's a great cause. It was a great day out there. It was just beautiful, gorgeous on Mission Bay. The kind of the clouds in the sky, had some great pictures, and it was a really good time. And I wanted to thank them for inviting me to be part of it just a little bit. I didn't do much other than get up there and say some welcomes and read some sponsors' names, but it was terrific to be there.
Yeah, we have a star that we keep lit in the studio, Sarah Langs, who is just one of the most fun and brilliant baseball minds out there today. She has ALS as well, and we bought the star, we light it in our studio for her, for all the people affected by ALS. It is a just nasty disease, Ben, and good for you for going out and doing that. I didn't give back much this weekend. I did give some cleats away yesterday. Some spikes, yeah.
Size 11 and a half.
Size 11 and a half.
They're still available for
They're
anyone?
gone. They're gone.
Claimed.
Yeah, my boy Mikey came and picked them up yesterday from the house. And they're
now,
gone.
why didn't they fit you?
They just didn't fit.
But you are an 11 and a half.
Yeah, and it's weird because I bought them and I put them on and I wore them for one game and I went,
Too tight? Too loose? Too tight?
Too tight, yeah. And I went, okay. And I've just started buying 12s. Now, maybe my feet are growing. The older you get, weird stuff happens. I will pluck my ear or trim my ear hair on a Monday, and by Wednesday morning, it's full, a thatch of hair in there. It's very
Sexy.
weird. Very. It's so hot. It's so hot. My wife is so lucky every day that she gets to lay next to me with my CPAP on.
There's probably an alternate universe where ear hair is incredibly sexy, and the guy with the most ear hair is
1920
Ryan Reynolds out there.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
it's not 2023 in this universe.
Yeah, no, they loved it back then. They loved it back then. So I'm a bit in the chamber. Last week I came in and said, "Man, it's gonna be a tough week." Bo, my kindergartner, has early pickup all week. And Friday, Hannah brought him home from school, and she goes, he's off for the next 9 days, right? I go, he's what? She goes, he's off. He's got fall break. I'm like, he's in kindergarten. What does he need a break from? He has 4 recesses a day. What does he need a break from? She's like, dummy, it's for the teachers. And I'm like, oh, yeah, the teachers. Okay, yeah, I guess that makes sense. I guess it makes sense.
How come they don't take more of them? Is that what you're wondering?
Dude, honestly, teachers should go week on, week off. They should be like firefighters. We're going 72, and then we're off for 72. All right, I go, okay. So now this little SOB is home for the next week. So everything changes. You gotta come get him. You gotta do this. He needs to come to your office, whatever it is. I'm like, oh, I love him so much, but holy cow, you understand why that a lot of people don't homeschool, because you need time. You need to go to the grocery store. You got to work out. You got to do all the things you need to do. This week's going to be a little dicey, so I'm telling you right now. And you're leaving later in the week.
I am. I'm off on Thursday and Friday this week, so yeah, you're going to have to battle at home and here. By the way, speaking of here, thanks to your wife Megan Pauley for sending us some of her, what are the monkey paw muffins?
Monkey paw bread, monkey paw
They
muffins.
look really, really good. I haven't had one yet, but it looks fantastic.
I'm just staring at
doughy
them.
cinnamon syrup balls.
All things I love.
They're only 150 calories each.
Well, yeah, if you only eat one.
There you go.
I'm salivating.
Looks like I could down 3 pretty quickly
Ungodly.
if I really tried, for
Yeah,
sure.
She hadn't made them in a while, and she goes, hey.
Well, like pull-apart bread.
Yeah, pull-apart.
You want me to make some of those again? I'm like, yes.
Please don't.
Of course.
I'm begging you.
And she thought, given the news of the day, She's like, yeah, maybe you guys will need
Good
a
day
little.
for it. Yeah, a little extra just zing this morning for sure.
L3
Exactly.
Oogie said, "When is the baseball talk? We're in shambles over here." I understand. I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. I think shambles is the right way to put how I think everybody's feeling right now. It's not a. It's honestly, I swear, and you guys know me. It's not a victory lap I wanted to take. You know how I feel about Bob Melvin. You know that I feel like he's the right guy for the job here. I'm very, very upset. I'm upset. I was actually angry yesterday. I slept on it a little bit. I've got some different thoughts. Trying to sort them all out in my head. But I think what it boils down to, man, is that being a fan of this team or covering this team is just really quite a circus and quite a roller coaster. And I don't want today to sound super performative. You see a lot of performative stuff, a lot of banging the desk about A.J. Preller and Bob Melvin. Did I knock your charger out? I'm sorry.
You not only knocked it out, you broke it somehow. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, it did break.
Well done.
Great
job.
I don't want it to sound performative. I don't. I don't understand what's going on. We all have our theories. We all have what we've read. I think a lot of people owe Kevin Acee and Dennis Lynn an apology. A lot. That reporting was spot on. Mm-hmm. Spot on. And I think the job of a journalist is really, really hard. Whether it's a radio personality, whether it's an actual journalist that writes these articles and sources these things, you have a lot of people not believing you. And in fact, one of the main principles in here was A.J. Preller was the one that kind of poo-pooed that journalism, and that kind of shocked me a little bit when it happened, because now as it comes to light, it does look like Bob Melvin will be allowed to go interview for the San Francisco Giants job. What does that mean moving forward? That's what we're going to talk about today. But I will say this too: when you're a fan of a team, you eat what they give you. That's just, or you don't be a fan. Here's your options as a San Diego Padres fan today. Here's your meal. Eat it. If you don't want to eat it, that's on you, right? That's basically the fan of, whether you're a fan of the Houston Texans, or the San Diego Padres, the Miami Hurricanes, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. This is our decision. You want in, you're in, but you have to eat this bowl that we give you. Or you don't. Those are your options. That's it. You don't. I got people on Twitter going, they did this after I renewed my season tickets? That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable to me. I don't know that I would have renewed had I known it was going to be like this. And I'm seeing a lot of that.
Well, ultimately, it comes down to the fact that it seems very clear that Peter Seidler wanted both guys to come back. But in the last couple of weeks, it's continued to look like that was untenable. So they've made the decision to allow Bob to interview in San Francisco, which means, as we've known for a long time, Peter Seidler is still putting his faith in A.J. Preller. Now, a lot of us have lost a lot of that faith that we had in A.J. over the last few years based on some of the results. But, Peter is not a dumb guy. Peter is a smart person. We have talked to him many times, and there is the chance that Peter is still right, that the best thing for his organization is A.J. at the top and finding a different manager to work with. It's a tough swallow right now because I liked Bob Melvin.
That's the bowl of food.
I liked Bob Melvin a lot, and I thought he was going to be the right person. I was a big fan of the hire. I thought it was a genius move when they brought him in. I am shocked that in just 2 years, including a trip to the NLCS, that it's coming likely to an end this way. So, yeah, that's the tough swallow, the bowl of food that is not going down really well right now. But I also know that I can be wrong. The fans, you can be wrong as well, and AJ may end up with the last laugh raising a World Series trophy over his head. I don't know how we get from A to B, but that's where we're standing right now as fans of the San Diego Padres organization.
The other thing I wanted to do today is, it's one thing to listen to us bloviate about it, and we've been doing nothing but bloviating about it for a couple of weeks now, and since the Zoom presser and all that. we'll do the timeline again. We'll talk about kind of how it felt.
The Zoom presser that, by the way, Bob Melvin was not a part of.
Yeah, of course.
And that still remains the biggest red flag throughout the last few weeks and the end of the season.
Always
Him not
was.
being there, I never once believed. I believe that he did text, Bernie Wilson back or whatever, and I believe that he said, "Hey, I'm under contract.
I'm the manager."
Right.
Yeah.
But that's about it.
That's the distinction that I'm already seeing in the chat. Bob and AJ lied to us. No, they didn't. They didn't. They didn't lie to you. They told you the truth. Bob's our manager. Bob is technically our manager. It's like Paul made the point before the show. It's like them looking at you as a fan and going, I don't know what you're complaining about. We had a winning season. We were 82-80. Did we not? Oh, I don't know. Were we below 500? No, you weren't. Okay, winning season. Okay, yeah, technically you're right. And technically Bob is the manager. And Bob at that time said, I'm the manager. I'm under contract. None of those are lies. But I think any of us that read the signs and saw the red flags just whipping through the wind realized this isn't good. It's just not a good situation. It's not tenable for these two to work together anymore. So we will talk about all of it. But the thing I wanted to do is I wanted to have some tier ones weigh in. I wanted the people that go out and buy season tickets to call in. 833-288-0973. How do you feel about it? It's one thing to hear our thoughts and opinions, but you guys
people that just renewed their season tickets in the last month.
You guys are the people that are gonna, the 3 million plus that filled Petco Park last season. That's the most important thing, is getting the fan perspective today, because it's one thing to hear our thoughts and theories, but this is also a place, and it always has been, for you to get it off your chest if you're so inclined. So we will be taking calls throughout the morning. Jordan Schusterman will join us at 8:35. It was supposed to be Jake today, but he's traveling. He's not ducking the media, guys. He's very, very active still. We will catch up with Jake at some point.
We'll also go through the list of, if Bob does leave, it seems very, very likely he will, of possible candidates already, filtering out there, people that the Padres might promote from within, maybe take a look at from outside the organization. So we'll get to all that as well. It is Monday morning, no shortage of things to talk about, but I agree with Woods. I want to hear from you. 833-288-0973. We rarely take calls early in the morning, but we're going to do so today if you want to join us. I will pick the Daily Ditty. Is it okay if I pick the theme, even though I'm not going to be here all week?
Sure.
I got one for you. That is coming up next. Don't go anywhere. It's Ben and Woods kicking things off on a Monday. Get our first check of traffic with Kelly, and off and rolling on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
Is this LMFAO or who is this?
Chainsmokers.
Oh,
Can't be everything from 1982. I mean, right?
When you going on vacation again?
You don't like this song? No, you're not a fan. I knew you wouldn't be. You like the theme, though.
What's the theme?
The theme is
bands that are chose.
bad relationships.
Bad relationships.
Breakups and bad relationships.
Okay, that's actually very fitting.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Breakup songs.
Yeah, breakup songs about either breaking up or toxic relationships. There's plenty of them out there. I was going to choose I Hate Myself for Loving You, but then it had already been taken. Then I was going to take You Give Love a Bad Name, but we've already played it. Can't remember. I mean, we have, 600 songs almost on the Daily Ditty now?
God, we really do.
I cannot remember what we've chosen and what we haven't. I just go through the list. Every time I pick a song, it's already been taken.
692 songs.
How many hours?
700 songs.
It just says over 24.
I know that I didn't choose either one of the two that I wanted to choose. They must have been picks from one of you guys in the past.
Probably.
Pretty sure I did You Give Love a Bad Name.
All right, yeah.
The other one?
I Hate Myself for Loving You.
I think you did that, man.
Did I do that one?
I think so.
I don't think I did.
I think so.
But anyway.
Toxic relationships is the...
Breakups, toxic relationships. I mean, you could do Taylor Swift's entire catalog if you wanted.
You're talking to the master of toxic relationships and breakups, and B, you're talking to the master of the loves toxic relationship and breakup songs. No offense. I'm very happily married. I love you, babe. I know you're watching and listening. Not you. Other women is what I'm talking about.
But it sounds like the Padres are going through a breakup.
Yeah.
With their manager this week.
Shocking.
We'll get more details as Bob Melvin interviews with the San Francisco Giants. But we wanted to take your phone calls early in the show today. Something a little different on a Monday morning, 833-288-0973, and get your thoughts on what you read yesterday in The Athletic, the reporting that was done, the speculation now that is out there. Let's go out right away. Let's start with Eddie this morning with Ben and Woods here on 97.3 The Fan. Welcome.
Eddie, good morning.
Hey. Good morning, guys. I am ready for Take on Woods. Let's go.
Let's go, buddy. I'm ready too. Be a nice little break. What'd you think about this news yesterday?
Well, the theme songs is everything from 2007 because that's the last time San Diego had a GM named AJ with a high profile who fired a coach with more winning records than the franchise had in its history. So here we go again. That was kind of the beginning of the end for that sports team.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the good news is that Peter Seidler loves being in San Diego, and Peter Seidler does not have any aspirations of being a big shot in L.A., which Dean Spanos absolutely did. I'm not worried about the Padres leaving. I'm worried about the Padres continuing along in this chaos. And the thing the theme that resonated with me all year, I looked back, I was driving yesterday, and I thought about when we started as a show. And the Manny stuff, Manny getting here. I thought about all the Tatis drama. I thought about all the free agent signings, the Juan Soto deal. I thought about heartbreaking losses and underachieving teams and falling. And I thought to myself, bro, since you've been doing this with Ben and Paul, it has been nothing but chaos. Some good chaos. But chaos is still chaos, right? Like there's no... And the other thing that sticks in my head is Peter Seidler said to us, I value stability. There's nothing stable about this organization right now. Nothing. There's no stability in this organization. And when your owner values that above all, I like where your head is at. But man, the
four managers in 4 years
is not stability.
I don't, Eddie brought up the example of Marty Schottenheimer. I don't really see the direct parallel between the Chargers of that decade and what's happening now. But if you're going to bring it up, you'd have to say that while the Chargers certainly seem to downgrade from their manager or their head coach from Marty Schottenheimer to Norv Turner, which the Padres, without a doubt, almost the perception, whoever they end up hiring to replace Bob Melvin will look like an inferior version of a manager. Because Bob Melvin has way more credentials, just like Marty did, but they actually took a step forward and were in the AFC Championship with Norv, where they kept, stubbing their toe under Marty Schottenheimer. So just because you may not like the name, who is the head coach or the manager of your team as much, doesn't necessarily mean that your team is not going to do as well or better, because we've certainly seen examples in the past where that just doesn't always hold true in professional sports.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the Chargers have been gone for a long time. This is a Padres town now. We need to treat it as such, and they need to treat it as such as well. And, I I don't know the state of the organization as far as like, I don't know. I'm trying to be respectful. I don't know what's going on in that, this is not what we were told, promised. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't add up. When you think about it, letting a guy go to manage, to interview with the Giants at its very basest, just the bottom of the barrel here, at its very basest thing, it makes no sense. In fact, seems to me quite dumb. Quite a dumb move to make. So I really don't know how to rationalize it in my head. It doesn't make sense to me, and that's kind of what we're here to do. If you can change my mind, I'm all ears. I'm open to it.
All right, let's keep the phone lines open. 833-288-0973. We'll continue the discussion when we come back. I want to talk about the mechanics of what this may look like over the next few days. Will the Padres ask for compensation from the San Francisco Giants?
That'll make it better.
There was an update
if they
to
do,
that.
We
Ben.
do have a late night update to that story. We'll bring that to you next. But give us a call, 833-288-0973. This hour of Ben and Woods is brought to you by the Golf Mart, and we'll be back with more Padres Bob Melvin talk here on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
If you guys want to weigh in on any of this, all of this, some of it, part of it, 833-288-0973. Again, important for us to hear from you guys because, yeah, I mean, I buy merch. I was a season ticket holder before. We buy a ton. We buy a ton of merch. Oh, my God, do we buy a ton of merch? We support the team. My house, my office is a Padres shrine. We love the Padres in my house. We have an SD hanging on our door. That's our squad.
Well,
and
you said it's important for us to hear from fans. Just know that people down at Petco Park are listening.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
They will hear from you as well.
But it's an interesting point Paulie brings up, Benny. You saw, and I think a decent example is you saw the backlash that just came out about SDFC, right? San Diego Football Club and the logo. Now, if it were me and I were in charge and I put out a logo that was universally panned, I would have panicked. I would have. I will be completely honest with you. I would have said, everyone get your asses to work. Be there at 4 a.m. We're coming up with a new logo. We're going to listen to the fans. You can't do that. You can't do it. You just cannot go, oh, you didn't like that? Okay, we won't do it anymore, right? You have to be convicted in your moves and in your decisions. The Padres, while they are appreciative of their fans, they're not going to really take our input on how they should run the team. And I think we all need to get that out of our heads that
it's not true. I disagree with that a little bit.
Well, I'm not saying your voice doesn't matter. It does. But like I said earlier, if you're a fan of the San Diego Padres, you eat what they give you, and you don't have a choice. Your only other choice is root for another team or eat. That's it. Those are your only choices as a fan of any team.
But if the Padres were to go out and sign or consider signing Trevor Bauer,
sure,
they know that the fans.
That's different entirely. I think that's a different. But
that's making a decision based on the outcry that the fans will have.
There are a lot of fans out there though who did blame Bob Melvin for this season's disappointment.
No
and
question.
Feel like the Padres are going in a better direction without Bob. Just because, I don't feel that way. And I don't think Woods feels that way. I didn't think Bob was the problem at all this year. Doesn't mean we're right either. Those fans might be right. And I'll show you an example. A guy brought up the Chargers. I think the Phillies are a telling example. They had a manager with a better overall career record than Bob Melvin, who had won a Manager of the Year and a World Series title, which Bob never had as their skipper. And they fired him in the middle of the season last year in favor of a bench coach who, let's be honest, no one knew who Rob Thompson was from Adam. And no one knew him. Who's the hottest right now manager in baseball after leading the Phillies to the World Series last year and now on the doorstep of World Series again this year? Rob Thompson. What did he do? He was Joe Girardi's bench coach for years and years and years. What was different about Rob Thompson than Joe Girardi? How did that organization change when you took number 2, Joe Girardi, and made him the big guy? I don't know what worked, but it did work. It's baseball. It's weird. And it's quite possible that the Padres find someone who just ends up being a better fit and a better click and unlocks something for the Padres next year. Now, my brain says it's going to be really hard to find someone who's even as good as Bob, much less an improvement on Bob. But I acknowledge that absolutely possibly could happen next year.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, if they're like it's Ryan Flaherty, what are you going to do as a Padre fan? All right. Okay. Good luck, right? I mean, what are all our alternatives? Like you're gonna eat what they give you, and you don't have a choice. You have to eat it. And
if they start winning a bunch of games, we won't care at all,
right?
And if they start losing a bunch of games, we'll all go, "I told you so." And the Padres will know as well as anyone that they've got a problem. If they hire a manager who then goes out and is 10 games under 500 in the first half of the season next year with a $200+ million payroll, they'll go, man, we are really heading down the wrong path. We've taken this organization in the wrong direction. They'll know it. They won't need you to shout it from the rooftops. I would think that if they don't come out and have a good season next year, they will know that they're going the wrong direction.
So where's the blame fall? Who gets the blame for this? Who gets the blame for the entire situation, in your opinion? Just one man's opinion. Who does it fall on?
I think it's mixed. It's like anything. It's not all one person's fault.
No, I tell you, it's one person's fault, in my opinion. It's A.J. Preller's fault that this is happening. And maybe, here's the beauty of it. And I guess not if you're AJ Preller, it's not beautiful. But so you hired him, right? Why did you hire a guy that now wants to leave? So at the end of the day, you rubber stamped it, you signed off, you gave him the deal, you got him. It was a great move. We all thought, you thought at the time. You hired him. It's got to fall on you. The fact that he's interested in another job, guess what? That's your fault. It is. It's just the way that it works. You made a bad hire. Another bad hire. Regardless of win-loss record, regardless of disappointing season last year, at the end of the day, your name is on all of these hires. The fault can't go to anyone else.
So if it's AJ's fault, the question was who gets the blame.
Correct.
And I think fault and blame are different, and blame is more shared than the fault. And I think you have to throw Peter Seidler into the blame mix.
I agree with you. If the plan is to make it look like we wanted Bob all along, and he just refused to work with us and wanted to leave desperately, and so that's on Bob. I don't buy that.
Then why did you hire him?
And I agree.
Why wasn't he vetted?
So I agree with you. Whether you fire him or let him go, you made the wrong hire.
You made the wrong decision.
But ultimately, you just said, someone hired AJ. Someone continues to employ AJ.
Sure.
So, you do have to look above him at Peter Seidler and the decisions that are made. And if truly the Padres are going down the wrong path, ultimately, it does go all the way to the top. We love Peter Seidler and what he's done for this city and what he has invested in the Padres and just changed our entire outlook on baseball. But at some point, if this continues to happen and AJ keeps hiring managers that he can't work with and they have to get rid of them within 2 seasons over and over again, then at some point someone needs to, check AJ and say, it's not working. And to have blind faith then in your general manager, despite the evidence that he is not capable of hiring a manager that he can successfully work with, and this is now 4 times, that to me is some of the blame and responsibility for what's going on here.
Opening your checkbook and signing all these free agents and turning Petco Park into the place to be in San Diego, those are great things. That's not all that being a team owner is, though. Right?
No, it's how you have to hire the right people to hire the right people. But again,
you can open up the checkbook and buy a Maserati, but if you don't maintain it, if you pour gas into it,
I'm not saying Bob Melvin is absolved of any blame or anything for the failures of last year. I thought he made some questionable decisions. All managers do. That's always going to be in me. Every manager blows it from time to time. I never got the sense that he lost the clubhouse. And I have no basis of backing this up whatsoever. My only thing I thought about Bob is towards the end of the year, he seemed like he was checked out. And I think if you're in a relationship that I'm not saying it was toxic. I'm saying if you deem it to be toxic, if it's toxic for you, the checkout thing is just a way to protect yourself and a way to protect your mental well-being. And to go in and nod, we got to get it going. But we've seen this before. The lack of accountability with this team is staggering. Staggering from the players to the manager to the general manager. And AJ has to say, this is what it boils down to. You made the hire. He's now wanting to interview with a division rival. That's your fault. You hired a guy that is not committed. If that's in fact the case. Was it because of what you did? When we had him on our show, we asked him. He goes, and he did it in the Zoom meeting too. He called into question the reporting of a lot of the guys in town. We asked him the question, is Bob coming back? Yeah, Bob's our manager. We don't talk about contract stuff. That was red flag number 1 for me. Well, red flag number 1 was not being on the Zoom. Red flag number 2 was then on this show. He's we don't talk about contracts or things like that. So you knew that the relationship was fractured. I don't appreciate the dancing around of that question. Not like he could have really said it because we already knew it. We knew the answer. But at the end of the day, it falls on him. He made another bad hire. Bob Melvin now is a bad hire. Why? Because he wants to interview with the Giants. That's a bad hire. That's on you. You did it. If we brought in a fourth voice on this show, a fourth chair, and that person went on a social media rampage and was doing horrible stuff, guess whose fault it is? It's my fault.
If Bob Melvin was offered a contract extension with the Padres, would he want to still go to the Giants?
Exactly.
If the Padres had offered him another 3 years on top of this year, some security, would he say, "No, yeah, I'm good staying here"? Then that's it's hard for me to blame Bob for wanting. I'm sure the Giants will not. I'm going to offer him more than a 1-year deal.
I'm assuming they will. Yes.
I mean, he'd be dumb not to go and interview somewhere that wants to keep him and pay him probably $15 million over the course of the next 4 years versus the Padres, who very well. Things didn't go well the first 3 months of next year. He'd be fired with no job options. So it's smart of Bob to want to go interview with the Giants. It's also probably smart of the Padres not to offer Bob a contract extension right now as well. Would you think it's smart at this moment to offer Bob Melvin a contract extension?
Well, no, because what it told me is you guys didn't do anything to repair your relationship, and that's on both of you. You didn't. You said we're buddies. We talk 5 times a day. You didn't do anything to repair your relationship. So, no, you don't offer somebody a contract extension if you think you can't work with them. And you don't accept a contract extension if you think you can't work with them. But one thing I have learned about managers and really anyone in a position to have a job like that is, dude, I mean, have you ever maybe dated somebody that you heard red flags about, and you're like, I can fix her. It's risk reward. I can totally turn this around. Every manager's like, there's 30 of these available, and they're not all available at the same time. There's maybe 2 to 3 a year. I know it's toxic. I know their roster sucks. I know they don't have any money. I know they blew the draft 3 years in a row. I'll take it. I'll do it. They're cucks. They're all cucks. Every single manager out there is a cuck. Everyone. You're like, yeah, no, it's the terrible. I'm in. Let's go. Why? Because you want to be a manager. I don't blame you for that. It's like a radio job. I had to get on my knees to get back in here. I'm a cuck. I'm telling you the same thing. I had to come in here and beg for my job back because I had a family and I wanted to do this. And I had to. Everyone wants to think they're principled and moral and everything, have all these morals. When it comes down to it, you want to be a manager at the big league level, or you want to be a morning radio show host. You will do what you have to do to get that gig.
833-288-0973. Steve, we'll get to you right after. Don't go anywhere. Right after this check of traffic on 97.3 The Fan.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic Center, here's Kelly Danick.
Might find some slick roadways around various parts of the county this morning. We've had some scattered showers. Just give yourself a little extra time. Take it extra carefully once you are out there. Now, westbound King Freeway before Spring Street, there is a collision blocking the slow lane. Also, collision on the Fletcher Parkway on-ramp to westbound 8. We still have this jackknife big rig in the North County, northbound 15 past Rainbow Valley. It's taken up the 2 left lanes. I'm Kelly Danick with Ben and Woods, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
All right, let's go out to Steve. You're first up or second up here now on Ben and Woods this morning on 97.3 The Fan. Hey, Steve.
Hey, gents. Good morning. When I first saw that headline last night, the first thing I thought was 3-6. 3 championships in 6 years again for the Giants. That's the first thing I thought.
It makes you panic, dude. It does. It makes you panic. The fact that he's going up the road in the division. It does. And Bochy has scarred a lot of people here for very, very good reason.
And of course the Dodgers aren't going anywhere.
Correct.
And Arizona is going to be pesky for a long time.
Agreed.
And here the Padres are starting over again with a new manager.
Yeah.
So frustrating, but like you said, what are you going to do?
You got to eat it.
Sit there and eat it.
That's right, dude. It's the worst part about being a sports fan. They can hire, your favorite team can hire somebody that you've loathed your entire life, whether it's a player or coach or manager. You're like, all right, I guess I have to like Matt Beatty now. You know what I mean?
It's an absolute risk that the Padres know they are taking. Because if Bob Melvin goes and has a terrific season and maybe even wins a championship with the Giants in the next 2 or 3 years. Now, I don't think he's going to be with the Giants for a decade plus like Bruce Bochy was.
How long did it take Boch to get his
fourth
first
season with the Giants? He won his first championship. I don't know that Bob will be around for 4 seasons if he doesn't turn things around a little quicker than that with the Giants.
Agreed.
So I don't know that it'll look exactly the same, but you better well know that A.J. Preller and Peter Seiler, they know if Bob Melvin goes up and, they own the Padres and they win, they challenge the Dodgers for the division, they make playoff runs, and you're sitting here, you're going to look stupid. You're going to look like egg on your face again, like you didn't learn the lessons of the past and let the same mistake happen all over again. It's going to look really, really bad. Now, they're obviously hoping history doesn't repeat itself in this situation. And they're counting on that fact. I thought maybe, he talked about it in the last couple of weeks that if you were going to let Bob Melvin go, one reason I would do it would be if you can get something decent in compensation. I always would rather have talent and players over a manager any day.
But
the latest reporting overnight was that if the Padres do ask for compensation from the Giants, is expected to be fairly minimal. Yeah, you're thinking maybe like a minor league prospect, something like that. Not a significant player, not like a starting pitcher like they could use next season. It seems like it's not going to be a major component of letting Bob Melvin go to the Giants. So,
it is
scratch that one off the list as well.
It is so clearly a definition of insanity thing. We're running it back again, another new face. What does that do for the players, Ben? If you signed a long-term deal, if you signed a long-term deal, I guess at the end of the day, you don't really care, but it is a bit tumultuous. And with an owner that has said over and over he wants stability, this is not stable. It's just not stable. There is no stability. In fact, it's the opposite. It's chaos. It's a turnstile of people leaving every year, every other year.
Let's keep this rolling. If you want to call us, 833-288-0973. We may push Take on Woods, take more of your calls. Also want to talk about the potential replacements for Bob Melvin if he does leave. The lists that are floating around out there coming up next with Ben and Woods on 97.3 The Fan. Bob Melvin heading to interview with the San Francisco Giants. Heck, could be in San Francisco as we speak. Waking up in his hotel room, getting ready to head down to Oracle Park. Talk with Farhan Zaidi about the open managerial position in San Francisco. That's the big news. Ben Woods this morning reported by The Athletic yesterday that the Padres have granted Bob Melvin permission to go interview with the Giants. And let's just be clear. Unless something incredibly unexpected happens, it means, in my mind, 95% sure that he is not going to be manager of the Padres next season.
I don't know that you can. I think that's like
even if he doesn't get the job.
Even
in
if
San
he didn't get
Francisco.
the job,
He'd have to. First of all, the Giants obviously want to hire him.
Oh, that's why they.
He'd have to absolutely torch like the worst interview of all time.
Come in there nude. I think he still gets the job. Like, hey, what's this heli I'm going to do? Like, I just don't like. There's no way. There's no way. There's no way. Jeff Passon's just dropped a piece about it as well. Let's talk about, I mean, look, at some point, like you said, you move on. That's what you do as a fan. You go, all right, well, another one bites the dust here in San Diego, and how do we move forward as a fan base? I'm not quite there yet. I'm forcing myself to do this because I'm still very, very upset at how this is all played out. I'm upset about a lot, man. Jeff Passon is quoting, AJ Preller. In his latest piece on ESPN, Bob is our manager. He's going to be our manager going forward. A lot's been said, obviously, in the last few weeks, but both he and I are very excited about the challenge of getting this group back to the postseason next year. From that standpoint, a lot's been said, and I think with Bob and myself, I think even just the last couple of days, you get a chance to recap, look at some different things. Both of us feel really good with where things are at moving forward. What? Then why in God's name would you let him go interview with the Giants? You tell him, you want to work for the Giants, you have a year left on your deal, bud. Right?
Well, going forward seems to have been a bit of a nebulous concept.
Yeah, they went forward 2 weeks.
Yeah, he was the manager going forward from that press conference for the next couple of weeks. And now he is probably no longer the manager going forward. Get back to some of these phone calls, and I want to go through the lists that are circulating of potential replacements for the San Diego Padres. But let's go out to John. You're next up with Ben and Woods this morning on 97.3 The Fan. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Ben. Hey, boys. Thanks for taking the call, Paulie. You guys have done a great job this morning going through all the different angles of this. And in my brain, the Zoom call and this report that's blown up is really an indictment on AJ Preller and lack of sincerity, big time, dishonest, honestly. And it's also an indictment on Seidler. And I don't really have a problem with Seidler, but he's done a lot of good here, more good, than that. But honestly, we can't fire the owner, and he doesn't seem to be willing to fire Preller. And you guys have documented really well, so I don't need to say the same stuff again, like all of those problems. And I think you said the fourth manager, and we're going to go do this again and again and again. And I'm over it. So
it's tough, man.
It's an indictment on Preller, and Preller must go. That's what I have to say. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, John. Sometimes it's the easy decision to fire someone. If you're an owner or you're a GM, it's easy to say, things didn't work out. We're firing this guy and we're moving on to someone else. Sometimes it's the hard decision to fire someone as well. You get comfortable. I know, they're feeling that in New England right now. Is Robert Kraft just too comfortable, is just afraid of firing Bill Belichick? And there's a report this week that he just gave him a contract extension.
7 rings will help.
It does.
It helps soften the blow.
It does.
7 rings. I feel like that's one of those guys. You're the coach. Unfortunately, the way that it works, at least in my brain, is you won. Is it right? 7.
6.
6. You won.
Tom got 7. He got.
Yeah,
6.
that's right. Yeah. You won 6 rings for me. This is your job until you drop dead or until you're done. That's it. And I feel like that's not the worst way to handle it, too. Like, what's the magic number? I don't know. But 6 is a pretty good number of championships.
So sometimes it can be hard to fire someone when you're an owner or a GM. Sometimes the hardest thing to do, though, is to keep someone who has not proven that they can get it done, but you still feel like they're going to. And you'll face a lot of criticism. And Peter will get a lot of criticism for, especially the way this is playing out, for having as much faith in AJ that he does. He may still be rewarded for that faith in the long run. We don't know how this is all going to turn out, but he will undoubtedly get some criticism from the fans for the way this is all broken out. And, that's because of the Padres' record this past season, the high expectations. That is going to occur. If it doesn't go well, there'll be plenty of blame for everybody. If the Padres miss the playoffs again next year, if they have a losing record next year, taking even another step back, there'll be no shortage of blame for A.J. Preller, for Peter Seidler, for whoever ends up being the new manager, for the players. There will be no shortage of blame to go around if the Padres don't turn it around next year.
Yeah, I mean,
call me glass half empty. I know you can't make any projections for 2024 yet because there has to be major changes to the roster between now and opening day, between now and the first day of spring training. But when you're looking at your manager leaving for a division rival, you're looking at losing the Cy Young winner, you are losing the best closer in baseball, and you're talking about trading the best hitter on your team. I don't see an improvement in 2024.
Yeah, nor do I.
Like,
I mean,
that's your 3 and 4 guys in your rotation are probably gone.
Yeah,
and what are we doing here?
Right. Yeah, what are we doing here is the first thing.
It took a miracle to get to 82 and 80.
Yeah, it did.
And you're losing all of that.
Yeah, there's not going to be any carryover. Now you have a new, maybe a new voice again for some of these guys. Manny will have played for 3 managers. He's been here 5 years.
Andy Green, Jace Tingler,
Bob Melvin.
This will be number 4.
This will be his 4th.
Yeah.
In 5 years. Guys, that's not stability. That's chaos. And as I mentioned earlier, all the chaos that's happened in the last at least 5 years that we've been here together, that's the time that I want to speak about. There's been really good chaos as well. There's been good chaos, but it's still chaos at the end of the day. It's still up, down, up, down, up, down. And that comes from, I think, that comes from one part of the organization. And I don't know how you feel if you're Manny Machado today. I don't know. Maybe you're like, all right, well, I mean, I don't care. I'm getting my money. I'm going to go out and post my numbers. I'm going to try to win a World Series. That's what we do. What does this do for guys like Juan Soto that are like, I got a year left here, or Hassan Kim, I got a year left here? What does it do for Xander Bogaerts that just signed a long-term deal? What does it do for some of these guys? I mean,
you bring up a good point.
Well, I said we're trapped as fans. A lot of those players are trapped as well.
But I think you bring up a really good point with Juan Soto. If you want to keep Juan Soto, isn't it critical that you now hire a manager that basically has the Juan Soto stamp of approval? How much thought do you put into that? If you're trying to convince him to sign a contract extension, and we've received various reports on what the Padres are trying to do, but they've always said they would like to keep Juan Soto around. They know it's not going to be easy to do so. You definitely don't want to hire a manager right now that Juan is not a fan of or doesn't like, correct?
Correct.
I mean, that'll be part of the equation as well. He's the one guy that you're trying to convince to stick around long term. Do you not have to at least kind of consult Juan Soto and see what he thinks about this whole situation?
I don't know. I mean,
you don't
I think,
like to let the players run.
No, I mean, there's
the scenarios. But if Juan shows up and he goes, I don't really like this guy, how are you ever going to convince him to sign a contract extension?
Yeah,
you won't be able to.
You've painted yourself in so many.
I don't know that Juan Soto liked Bob Melvin even.
True.
We don't know any of this behind the scenes. What was going on? This hour on Ben and Woods is brought to you by Smart and Final. You don't need a magic spell to make Halloween stress-free and fun. Pick up Halloween in one trip at Smart and Final and use promo code 3FREE for free delivery on your next 3 orders of $45 or more.
So here's the list.
Yeah.
If you want the list of potential names to replace Bob Melvin, Ryan Flaherty is the first one mentioned in this piece by Dennis Lynn. Current role, Padres, he's not bench coach, really. He's the offensive coordinator.
He is the bench coach, technically.
I thought Christensen was the bench coach.
Christensen's the associate manager.
For Christ's sakes.
And Ryan Flaherty was the bench coach and offensive coordinator.
Okay. So it says Flaherty's widely viewed as the leading candidate to replace Melvin. He's well thought of in the organization, believed to have a strong working relationship with A.J. Preller.
He's 10 years younger than the two of us as well.
He is 37 years old. He would be the youngest manager in the majors. If that hire is made, I don't know Ryan Flaherty. I think I've talked to him maybe one time. I've heard good things about him from Adam Jones. That's it. That's the basis and extent of my knowledge about Ryan Flaherty. What that doesn't, if you make that hire, Ben, it doesn't do a lot to dispel the myth or the rumor that A.J. Preller only wants guys around him that he can impose his will on. Ryan Flaherty is your perfect example of, yes, he's been in the organization. I get that. Guys know him, whatever. But to hire a 37-year-old manager again and do he's a first, this will be what, 3 first-time managers hired under A.J. Preller? Yeah. That's not going to do a lot to dispel the rumor that you just like yes men around you. Well, and that is the rumor.
I guess it's just my opinion, but that's the only type of manager you're getting after letting Bob Melvin walk away.
But see, not necessarily. Buck Showalter would come here, he would walk here on his hands to take this job. Why? Because managers are cucks. We're all cucks. You want the job, you'll take the job. Anybody will take it. That needs to get out of everyone's mind right now. That somebody's going to look at it and go, oh, I don't want that situation. Hell no. Buck Showalter would manage the Pirates if he could.
Well, and you don't have to even leave your organization to find a guy who managed 3 straight playoff teams in St. Louis before he was fired.
Mike Schilt is the next name.
Another big name on the list as a potential replacement for Bob Melvin.
Somebody made the suggestion, if it is Mike Schilt, we need to make sure we have Talking Schilt every Friday. Talking Schilt would be the name of the segment. I'd take it for just that alone. Schilt talking would be incredible.
Would be a better
Holy Schilt. Holy Schilt would be great. So I'm just thinking long term here.
Shooting the Schilt.
Shooting the Schilt is great. All right, hire him. I'm in. But we need him weekly. Yeah. All right, it's got to be weekly.
I like Shooting the Schilt.
Shooting the Schilt
with Mike Schilt.
Yeah,
every
with
week.
The skipper.
Friday mornings with Ben and Woods on 97.3
Shooting the Schilt with the skipper every single Friday. So Mike Schilt is a Padres senior advisor. So it was weird that his exit from St. Louis was an odd one. It just was. He managed the Cardinals from 2018 to 2021. He won NL Manager of the Year in 2019, and then he was gone. And I don't know why. That's a weird one for me. Only he knows, and the people that were in that organization really know. But I think he's a decent candidate.
It's funny how perceptions change. When he was let go by the Cardinals, it was, what are they doing? You don't take a manager who's gone to 3 straight playoffs and just let him go. And then they had a good season under Ollie Marmol, and you're going, all right, well, maybe
you do.
And now, but then they collapse this year, and you go,
total train
maybe
wreck.
Mike Schilt was hanging things together and was not getting the credit that he was due in St. Louis.
Correct. So those are the inside names. The other one for me, this is not a shot at Ryan Flaherty. It's not. It's just a fact. I would say as an offensive coordinator, we didn't have a really great offense, and so the promoting, like, hey, you didn't really slay it at this job. Now we're going to give you the biggest job. I don't know. That feels like figurehead to me from A.J. Preller. That's just my thought.
I'm going to just go out and throw the other name that I mentioned that's not on the list but is in the organization in the front office right now is Mark Loretta, who was the former bench coach for the Cubs a couple of years ago. Seemed like he was on the track to maybe being a manager. Didn't work out in Chicago. Ended up taking the job back in San Diego. Has certainly not been on the field, the last couple of years, but certainly would command some respect and knows AJ, knows Eric Grupner as his special assistant, so could be that kind of bridge between a front office and a dugout of a player who was well respected for his career.
But again, no managerial experience. Which, again, Paulie makes the point. I mean, that is like the most likely guy, but not to say that Buck wouldn't take this job or any of the Joe Madden.
Yeah, but like everybody's throwing out Ozzie Guillen's name. You think Ozzie Guillen's going to come in here and just say, "Yes, sir, whatever you need, sir"?
No, I don't.
Absolutely not.
I mean, no,
absolutely not. But a guy getting his first job in Major League Baseball, whatever you need, AJ.
Whatever you need, man. Whatever you need, I'm here for it. Loretta would be awesome because I love Loretta, but Loretta's like a +3 handicap now and living a pretty good life, I would imagine, here in San Diego. Like, gets to play golf. Dominates out there. It's a different lifestyle entirely. Just being a manager, it's a totally different lifestyle.
Yeah, and Bruce Bochy seemed pretty happy away from the game, and then all of a sudden came back to the game. Though, when the opportunity presents itself, you have to think long and hard about, hey, Mark's a young guy still too.
Sure.
I don't know that he wants to just play golf for the rest of his days. He may still want to. contribute
that sounds
something.
so good.
Also in the organization, Adam just texted us, Matt Williams is there,
He's
third base
gone.
coach. I feel like he'll go with Bob Melvin.
Yeah, it's already been reported. Him and
Ryan Christensen
will
would go with Bob Melvin to San Francisco.
I mean, Matt obviously has strong ties to San Francisco. It's just
Makes perfect sense.
it's a no-brainer.
Well, I mean, if the Padres really wanted to offer him, as you said, a managerial job, he'd say, sorry, Bob, I'm sticking around to take your old gig.
Potentially,
So, if they
for
really
sure.
wanted him, but I don't know that they will. All right, let's take a timeout. Do you want to talk about, scoreboards in Michigan State?
No.
Or shall we just keep talking
rolling.
about? All right, there's some outside the organization candidates as well that have popped up on a couple of lists. We'll get to some of those as we kind of blow out our normal schedule, just because this is too juicy not to do so. And we can take more phone calls, 833-288-0973. Don't go away. More Ben and Woods on the way after traffic here on 97.3 The Fan. We've blown everything out. Don't do this. Take on Woods. Might get to it later, but it feels like we just got to roll. I mean, if we haven't even brought up the ALCS and NLCS and what a weekend it was, Woods, we're going to have to talk about it at some point. But right now, we're continuing to talk Padres baseball and the news that Bob Melvin likely out the door as he's heading to interview with the San Francisco Giants. Taking your phone calls, 833-288-0973. If you want to get online, please do. But I wanted to also bring up some of the candidates on the replacement list from outside the organization because we're seeing some names there as well.
Yeah, you got Joe Espada, who's like the Eric Bieniemy of Major League Baseball. Every year, Eric Bieniemy interviews for a head coaching position, never gets a job. Joe Espada is the same way. He's the bench coach for the Astros since 2018. He has been interviewed, it says, countless times. He's come up short each time. Don Mattingly is a name. He's currently the Blue Jays bench coach. Did not have a really good tenure with the Marlins, but it was the Marlins, right? Toronto didn't. I mean, they made the playoffs, didn't do anything. It says he has interest in managing again. His son was here. Preston Mattingly was here. He bolted for the Phillies and is probably very happy with his decision at this point, as the Phillies are a win away from making the World Series. Says
neither of those names does a ton for me.
Well. When I became a baseball fan at the age of 10, my favorite player was Don Mattingly. Selfishly, I would like to be able to say hello to Don Mattingly. Doesn't do anything for me managerial-wise. That's literally the only reason.
I mean, the only good part, if you hire Don Mattingly and he does have success, you can rub it in the noses of the Dodgers up the road because he failed miserably as their manager.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, he didn't.
Well,
he never had a losing season.
That's
never
true.
Once.
They let him go.
For Dave Roberts, and they got their short season championship, and that's all that they've really gotten. They got a lot of division titles. Will Venable is a name that I don't know why is on this list. He has declined to interview for a few open jobs, the Mets open job.
I think people are under the mistaken impression sometimes that Will Venable was an A.J. Preller guy.
Right.
He wasn't.
He was
not. Predated the A.J. Preller days with the San Diego Padres. Obviously well thought of, though, by fans here in San Diego, and is clearly considered future managerial material, guy who can bridge the divide between being a player, understanding the analytics, really smart guy from Princeton as well.
But he's got the gig in Texas when Boch steps down. Yeah. I think that's
he's like Dutch.
Yeah,
with Fisher in Texas with Boch now.
I think it's a foregone conclusion. He's the next manager of the Texas Rangers, unless something goes horribly wrong. Nick Hundley is a really interesting name for me as well. Me and Paulie got a chance to meet and hang out with Nick. We got to hang out with him last year at Fantasy Camp, and he was at Padres Fantasy Camp while taking the job as a Ranger special assistant. I called him a spy all week. He was fantastic. So he turned down the opportunity to interview for a managerial position already with the Giants. He said no to that. He lives here in San Diego, so that's probably pretty intriguing for him. Big league catcher, no managerial experience for Nick Hundley, but again, I don't know the direction. Nothing's going to surprise me. Nothing's going to surprise me at all. In fact, I would probably place money on the fact that it won't be anybody outside the organization. I do feel if it is internal, it's going to be Flaherty or Schilt. Outside, I bet it's none of these guys. Maybe somebody we've never heard of, or maybe somebody we never thought
Jace
of.
Tingler, I don't think he was on any list we had heard of until the end, and then his name popped up. And, I famously asked the question,
Who the fudge?
Who the fudge is Jace Tingler?
Yeah.
I mean,
Who the fudge is Jace Tingler?
Are we going to get a who the fudge hiring from A.J. Preller this time around, or will it be a more established name that we're all familiar with? Or someone completely off the board that we're not thinking of?
It's absolutely wild we're having this conversation again.
Let's go out to the phones again, 833-288-0973. We got Mike standing by. Good morning, Mike. Welcome to Ben & Woods, 97.3 The Fan.
Guys, I had such a good weekend till about Sunday afternoon.
Oh, yeah. Us too, man.
I am officially no longer going to be from Mike from Temecula. I'm going to be called WTF Preller.
WTF Preller. New screen name.
Yeah, it's I'm just really confused. I think to me right now, anybody that fills that position is going to be a puppet to AJ. I just think Peter Seidler put all of his eggs into Preller's vision, and Preller just has this like God effect. It's very frustrating. I feel AJ should be president of operations, period. Get a GM and work. I mean, guys, it's just so frustrating. It's like it's going to be continuous. Way back when, Fowler used to put AJ under the coals. And then all of a sudden, Fowler, they parted sides, ownership, whatever. But it just, to me, it's sad. It's like we had a lot of stuff building up. Then all of a sudden, Preller and Bob Melvin don't get along anymore. Well, I don't know, guys. I just want to vent my frustration.
I appreciate it, and you're not wrong, and it's that's kind of the whole thing that's happening right now is, and you can say all you want. Oh, you bring in a GM. Well, I mean, it's gonna.
I hear a lot. Bring in Kim Ng, and she can bring Skip Schumacher, and we love that. But if Kim Ng didn't want to work under a president of baseball operations in Miami,
right? Why
would she want to come work under AJ Preller than in San Diego?
Correct. And again, it's for me, and we don't know this. None of us know.
No,
we have an idea, and we know what we read, and we know what we hear. AJ Preller's the knock on him is that he's unable to wash his hands of things and delegate and let people do their jobs. And in fact, I heard that from someone in the organization. It's hard to do your job when you can't do your job. That's from somebody that works there. Hard to do your job when you can't do your job. And I think that's what Bob Melvin was mostly frustrated about. And think about this too. This is what was really this was killing me yesterday. You look at just on paper, the opportunity to live here in this amazing city for 6 months of the year. You have a fan base that is rabid, hungry, passionate. They fill the ballpark, even when you're losing, right? And even when you're letting them down. You have a roster full of ridiculously talented generational type players, and you go, no, it's too toxic. I'm out. I'd rather go to San Francisco, where I get Tyro Estrada and I get Joey Bart and I get Logan Webb, and it's not a better opportunity. It's not a better, more attractive opportunity. Now, here's the difference: Farhan and the Giants are really tired of not competing. They're pissed that they had that fall off last year. That's why they fired their manager. They're going to be in the market for some really big players. They have money to spend, and they've said, we're spending it. And we're not doing the thing anymore where we do 3-4 year deals. We're going after the big guys. The guy from Japan, the pitcher, Shohei Ohtani is another one that they want. Yeah, Yamamoto. Shohei Ohtani is another one that they're going to go hard for. So it's not promised to Bob Melvin, though. If he has that job, Ben, they tried to get Correa, they tried to get Judge. Didn't work out. So none of that is promised. This opportunity to manage in San Diego is a better opportunity.
But the division is going to be even tougher going forward.
No question.
Not just the Dodgers.
No question.
It's the Diamondbacks. It's going to be the Giants. It's going to be the Padres. Pity the Rockies. I mean, they're in a nightmare of a division with really not a lot of hope of turning things around. But, hey, they get to play in that ballpark that gives everybody problems when they go up there. So look at that going forward. I laughed, though, as we go to the break. Mike said he was having a good weekend until yesterday. If you were a San Diego sports fan, it was a miserable weekend.
It really was tough.
You had the flop of a crest unveiling for San Diego FC on Friday. The Gulls lost their home opener. The Aztecs lose 6-0 to Nevada, a team that had dropped 17 straight and couldn't move the ball against one of the worst defenses in college football. Even the Aztecs basketball team lost a closed-door scrimmage against Arizona State. The Loyal lose, and their franchise comes to an end in overtime in a playoff loss yesterday to Phoenix Rising. And you had the Bob Melvin news to San Francisco all break. One of our great San Diego sports weekends again.
Feels right.
Yeah. We'll come back. Phone lines are open again, 833-288-0973. We got to talk about, just Friday alone in the ALCS and NLCS was incredible. The best weekend of games by far we've seen this postseason, Woods. It was fantastic baseball. Even yesterday's blowout wasn't really a blowout. It was a dramatic game as well in the ALCS, and now we've got a Game 7 and a Game 6 today to get excited about. We'll get to all of that coming up next with Ben Woods, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
I don't know how you're so callously just moving on from this right
We're not
now.
moving on.
It's the I admire that quality in you. My wife will tell you. I just want to fight.
I just know that it's not going away anytime soon. We'll be talking about this tomorrow and Wednesday, and when I'm off on Thursday and Friday, and next week. I'm glad it's Ben and Woods here talking about Bob Melvin's imminent departure from the San Diego Padres. I mean, wouldn't we be shocked? We show up at spring training next year and Bob Melvin's still sitting there in Peoria managing this team. Well, yeah, the interview with the Giants didn't go that well, and
hey,
I'm under contract still.
Super excited, ready to get started.
Here I'm back, but if it was going to happen, it really did need to happen now. I mean, no other teams have hired managers yet, so you're not behind. You're not sifting through the leftovers of the guys who didn't get hired for the job, at least at this point. If you are looking for a manager, you still can interview everybody you want to interview, and you can talk to, coaches on the playoff teams that are still competing right now and feel like you're not way behind. So it had to happen now, is what I'm saying. And it's why I felt like if we hadn't heard anything by, very soon, that Bob Melvin was absolutely going to be back, because you can't wait until December and then say, all right, we're making a change now, and we need to find a manager at this point.
I think
you got to get the process going faster than that.
I think you knew this in your heart of hearts. You just didn't want to look at the red flags.
I saw the same things that you did. I just felt like if you know that within 2 weeks you're probably letting him go interview with the Giants,
why do you say that stuff?
Then you're not going to be saying those things publicly in a Zoom. Just hold off. Don't have your Zoom. Let people continue to speculate wildly. That's what didn't make a ton of sense to me. And maybe the Padres caved to a little bit of pressure and we just need to say something. AJ, you need to get in front of everybody and don't say too much because we may still go in a different direction.
AJ's like, no problem.
Yeah, so
no problem.
That is why I never was totally on board with the signs behind the scenes and
Yeah, Bob is our manager, and it's going to be our manager going forward.
Yeah, for 2 weeks. And then he's going to be the Giants manager after that. I never said that he was not going to be the Giants manager. If you listen,
you thought I meant 2024? No, I just meant...
No, I meant for the next couple of weeks. Yeah.
Nebulous.
Next couple of weeks. Yeah, it's fine.
Now,
he didn't lie. He did not lie.
Not in 24. In 24 days.
Yes,
he's
correct.
going to be the manager for the next 24 days.
There has been something made, I've read, about how the Padres, if they do let him go to the Giants, they will not have to pay him next year, and they are trying to cut payroll. But that's not, as a fan, that's not the kind of payroll. Even as Colonel Budget, that's not the kind of payroll I care about. Doesn't affect the luxury tax, doesn't affect your draft picks going forward. That is not the kind of money that you're worried about as a fan. Now, money is money in an organization, and if you're really, truly, trying to cut costs, it's a cost you can cut, and you'd rather not pay $4 million than pay $4 million. Even a billionaire will tell you, get all things being equal, I'd rather keep that $4 million than light it on fire because I'm not getting anything for it. But that doesn't help you in the long run. Doesn't help you sign a pitcher next season. That's not money that goes right back into the payroll of your organization. So I don't really consider that an important factor about the timing of this situation and the letting Bob go just to save a year on his contract at the end. Maybe that's a concern in the front office. It's not a concern for me as a fan.
I'd like to throw my hat in the ring, just saying. Kids are driving me insane. I'll throw my hat in the ring. Be happy to do it.
You'd be too emotional.
Yeah, you think?
As manager of the
You think
Padres.
so?
Yeah.
I'd stick up for my guys.
You would.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, you'd have some positive qualities.
There'd be some positive qualities. I have no idea what I'm doing, but that...
I mean, you hire the right people.
Yeah. I'm happy to delegate. Love to delegate. Lineup's mine, though. AJ, it's mine.
I think you play favorites too much.
I would, actually. I would definitely play favorites too much. But, hey, listen, if you're interviewing guys, I'm down. Just let me know.
You really could just delegate.
Be a good bit. Just go through the interview process.
Great bit.
Everything except
Eric, if you're listening, I'd like to make this happen.
Weekly radio hit on the Ben and Woods program, which you do yourself.
Oh, I would do.
You'd definitely be good at that. I mean, you'd be solid.
It'd be so fun.
Doing your weekly radio segment.
It'd be so good.
Probably the best manager in the league, really, when it comes to doing a weekly radio segment.
I know exactly what I'm doing. Exactly. We do it every Friday. We do a little manager hit. Ben.
All right, question for you. Did Brian Abreu throw at Adolis Garcia intentionally on Friday. We will get to that and talk about some of the games over the weekend in the ALCS and NLCS after a quick check of traffic here on 97.3 The Fan.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic Center, here's Kelly Danick.
Traffic is sponsored by Valvoline Instant Drive-Thru Oil Change, your 15-minute instant drive-thru oil change. Couple problems in the North County. Southbound 5 past Birmingham, a crash blocking the left lane. Got a couple vehicles involved. And we still have that jackknife big rig taking up the 2 left lanes, northbound 15 past Rainbow Valley. Stop by any of the 30 San Diego Valvoline Instant Drive-Thru Oil Change centers. You don't have to get out of your car, and it usually only takes 15 minutes or less. Visit SoCalOilChange.com for discounts and locations nearest you. Valvoline Oil Change centers are open 7 days a week. I'm Kelly Danick with Ben and Wood, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
What a weekend in the American League Championship Series with Game 5 on Friday night in Texas and then Game 6 last night in Houston. And honestly, I mean, after the Astros won Game 5 on Jose Altuve's 3-run home run in the 9th inning, felt like the series was probably over. Going back to Houston for 2 games, this team, there's some sort of magic that they've got in October that other teams haven't figured out. They are going back to the World Series.
I thought it was in the bag.
And then, of course, yesterday the Rangers respond with a fury, including the 9th inning grand slam by Adolis Garcia, tie the series at 3, and we are headed to a Game 7. And when you think about it, had Jose Altuve not made his big swing, the Rangers could be going to the World Series right now. It could already be over in favor of the Texas Rangers, which makes Friday's game absolutely fascinating and one of the best playoff games, I mean, you're going to get ever. I mean, in a postseason. It was phenomenal. It had twists. It had turns. It had benches clearing. It had ejections. It was playoff baseball at its finest. I'm glad when we talked about it last week, because I said the playoffs have been terrible, but that doesn't mean they won't be terrific going forward.
Yeah, you did. You said that Friday. We could get the best games ever.
We could still get them.
Lo and behold, Friday night's game was insane. It was just insane in every way. You asked me the question, do I think he threw at him intentionally? My answer is yes, I do.
You do.
And
so did all the umpires.
And I know that the I didn't originally. And then I saw something to the effect of Brian Abreu has thrown 1,281 pitches and not one of them has gone up and in on someone like that. So Adolis Garcia hit a home run and he pimped the hell of it. I thought it was pretty cool though and smart of all of the Astros after the game to say, I mean, even Justin Verlander, the guy that served it up, goes, I have less than zero problem with him celebrating. It's the biggest swing of his career. Yeah, you absolutely should celebrate when you hit one like that. But didn't you find it so fascinating that when he gets drilled, he doesn't yell at Abreu. He turns around and yells at Martin Maldonado because he knows at the end of the day, Martin Maldonado is calling that shot. If it was in fact intentional, he knows who it came from.
So my overly logical brain just goes to there's no way in that situation, in such an important game, in a series that is tied 2-2, in a close game, you would ever intentionally put a runner on in that situation. If you were if you were that mad, even if you thought it was the biggest show up moment that you had ever seen
in your life,
you just wait. You face him in 13 times next year.
See you next year.
You're just going to get him next year. You're going to stick it in your brain, and you will drill him next year, and then you can do whatever you want. But there's no way in that situation, with your season potentially on the line, you do that there. But then I also forget that these are highly emotional ball players sometimes.
100%, man.
Logic doesn't always come into play. And maybe they're even playing next level logic, because what happened after that, well, the Rangers did not end up capitalizing, correct, on the hit batsman?
That's the big one for me, is like they gave you an opportunity to at least get another run, first and second, nobody out, and you didn't do anything. All that emotion, all of that momentum, as we like to talk about in sports radio, you did nothing with it in that inning, and then you let a couple guys on. John Singleton's walk was just massive, and then you let Altuve come up and do what he's done, and he just... tattooed it. And it's
I could not believe.
Listen, if it's, and Jeff makes a good point here, assuming it was intentional by Abreu, isn't that the most badass move? Because as a reliever, you have that much faith in your team, they'll come back and win anyway. Dude, that's the thing that I was talking about all season with the San Diego Padres is that, and we, you know, I'm not picking on you, but you would say the next day, well, don't we need to win ball games? Like, we shouldn't be retaliating and this and that. Man, I'll tell you, like, let's say it wasn't intentional. No one was mad at Brian Abreu for doing it. Not one Astro was like, you idiot, put him on. Not one. Not the manager, not the bench coach, not the players. Not one of them was mad at that.
Let's hear from the manager. Here's Dusty Baker on Friday night's game.
You know, we pitch him up, and we pitch him up and in. And anytime you're throwing a projectile 97 miles an hour, some of them are going to get away. I don't care if you're big league, Hall of Fame, I don't care who you are. It didn't make any sense to me. I mean, we got a 2-run game. And they explained to me that, you know, the guy just hit a 3-run homer, but that was a mistake that he hit a 3-run homer. His ball was down and in, and he wasn't trying to go down and in.
Dusty Baker refusing to leave the dugout was magical.
Amazing.
It was
and Boch was
so
pissed.
good.
Boch was pissed about the delay. Boch was pissed about that it took so long. But at the end of the day, a lot of people said, hey, man, if you're Adolis Garcia and your closer is warming up and you've got a lead and your closer's ready to go, as much as it sucks, you got to take that pitch and you just got to trot down to first base and keep the game moving. The icing of Leclerc was as much to blame on Garcia as it was on Dusty Baker or anybody else. So, good.
Who knows? I mean, guy hits a 3-run homer next time up, he gets smoked there, so it doesn't really matter. It's, you know, I'd be upset too if I was Dolly. But like I said, it just took too long to get things back in order. That's what was frustrating me.
Yeah, it took forever. I mean, it took like 25 minutes or something to get it all back to where it was. But, by the way, if Garcia just takes his base there, they're probably, if he doesn't turn around and go after Martín Maldonado, just says, oh, that hurt, all right, and he runs down and takes his base, everything's moving.
Who knows? I mean, it's not as though Jose Altuve wouldn't have been trying to hit a home run in the ninth inning,
sure.
Whether or not emotions had boiled over in the previous inning.
But the walk, the single, the walk.
I think it was walk, homer, wasn't it?
Oh, I thought it was a single walk.
Was it single walk homer?
It might have been walk, homer.
Either way, props to Jose Leclerc
oh my God.
for then coming back the next game after giving it up. And in what was an absolutely critical, was it 4-2 with 2 runners on, bases loaded, and 1 out. And to get out of the jam last night after having given up the 3-run homer to Altuve the game before, that showed me a ton of heart and moxie from that guy on a beleaguered bullpen all season long to come through in that situation. And, of course, they score the 5 runs in the ninth, get the grand slam again by Garcia. That ball left the yard. I didn't see a stat on this, but given the short porch there, the Crawford boxes, and how hard that was hit on a line, that ball may have rivaled the fastest ever home run to leave a ballpark in the history of home runs.
That was a rope.
It did not waver a second as it left the ball yard to secure that 9-2 win for the Rangers yesterday, and forcing a Game 7 tonight, 5:03 p.m. And as far as I've heard last night, it's going to be Max Scherzer against Christian Javier. For all the marbles in the American League, one game, Game 7. This is pretty much the dream scenario between the two Texas rivals. Baseball at its best here right now, Woods.
And if you're an Astros fan, you're feeling good because Javier has been almost unhittable. And if you're a Rangers fan, you are on the you would be anyway. It's Game 7. But Max Scherzer has just not gotten it done. But baseball will flip the narrative on you so fast that you think you know and you bet it. You think you know and you call it. You say it on the radio. Oh, there's no way. There's no way Scherzer gets it done tonight. Man, we've seen it too many times where baseball just flips it on its head. I don't know. I do know this. Boch will have his toughest managerial job of the season tonight when you do have Max Scherzer out there.
So tough when you throw a guy like that out there that has pretty shaky postseason history, but he's still Max Scherzer.
Still
It's
Max
not like you're
Scherzer.
throwing
It's like Dave Roberts throwing Clayton Kershaw out there.
100%. It's not a bullpen day. It's not some guy making his MLB debut.
You don't have a bullpen, really. I mean, you don't have a locked-in bullpen that you can mix and match like Rob Thompson has been able to do. You don't have that, really, if you're Bruce Bochy. So you are on a wing and a prayer tonight, and that wing belongs to Max Scherzer, and that's all you can hope for is that, oh, my God, please just don't. Please keep it close. You know,
but you got Garcia. You've got a lineup. You've got such a deep lineup that got.
Yeah.
I mean, Garver,
my
3
God.
for 4 home run yesterday. Heim hits the 2-run homer. They're getting contributions all
up
over
and
the
down.
place. I mean, Seager hasn't even done a ton.
Yeah.
And, he could step up. They have that deep lineup, but against Christian Javier, who's been really good, will they be able to get to him? Lots of intrigue for Game 7 tonight. Then, of course, you got the National League Championship Series. We can get into that coming up as well, but that one's going to a Game 6. The Diamondbacks surprised us on Friday night.
Kudos.
With
I thought
that
they were
come from
done.
behind win. Yeah.
Yep. I thought they
So
were
we'll talk about
toast.
that. We got a ton of phone calls back on the line
All right,
here
good. Let's
as
go.
well. So I think we got people who want to talk Padres. So much to get to here in the second half of Ben and Wood. So 833-288-0973. I don't want to go to anyone right now because we got like 1 minute left. I feel like we'll cut you short. So let's just hold that until the next hour. We'll get back to the phone calls, talk a little bit more Padres. Bob Melvin, how fast do you think this is going to happen? By the way,
by Friday.
Oh, yeah, by the end of the week for sure.
I would think so as well, if not faster. I mean, it could be tomorrow or Wednesday.
It just feels like this is a mere formality that he's going to go up and do a formal interview. It's more of a, all right, so when do I start? Who's coming with me?
He may have already interviewed over the weekend. By the time the permission is reported on, it's not like it's tough to get from Phoenix to San Francisco.
Correct.
It's an hour
Peter,
flight.
it's Farhan. I got Bob sitting here with me. Is it cool if we have a conversation?
It may not have been that fast, but you could do it on the same day. You get permission in the morning, and by that afternoon, Bob could be in an office somewhere interviewing for the head job. So, my guess is they'll do a little due diligence. The perfunctory look into things before you sign up a multi-million-dollar contract. But I don't think it's going to take more than a couple of days before we get some final news here. So we'll come back. Phone lines are open. We'll talk Padres baseball and more with you next here on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
Appreciate you guys tuning in. Ben and Woods, 97.3 The Fan. A lot of people listening, a lot of people watching right now. So we very much appreciate that. I love that when you hear Padres news, this is the place that you come because that's what we're going to spend the entire morning talking about. I heard there were some NFL games yesterday. Was really unaware once this news broke down. I couldn't even watch the game last night.
It was
really.
a pretty good game. But,
I didn't really care at all because this is where you come to talk Padres. Here on Ben and Woods. I know people are standing by on hold. We are halfway home on a Monday. Been an interesting Monday to be sure. I'm Woodsy. That's Paul. It's Ben Higgins, Friendly Neighborhood Sports Anchor. Let's get to some of those calls, man. See what people are feeling out there.
All right, lines are full right now. Let's start at the top of our board. Will, you are next up, kicking off hour number 3 of Ben and Woods here on 97.3 The Fan. Hey, Will.
Hey, guys. Morning. How you guys doing?
Good, buddy.
What's up, Will?
Hey, I'm enjoying all the playoff games, too, even though my Padres aren't there.
Yeah.
I have to say this is one of my most enjoyable, especially when you see the success Bochy's had this year.
Isn't it fun, though, it sucks when your team's not in it, but let's be honest with each other. It's also kind of fun. You can just talk crap about other teams and how bad they are and just enjoy the...
It's not as stressful.
No, it's definitely not as stressful. It's no stress at all. I mean, it is for me and Paul because we put some money on it, but other than that, you just get to watch and, talk crap about the other teams.
Yeah, it's a fun game to watch, and you don't get so emotionally involved. Although those games have been pretty emotionally charged. I have a question for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
I read that report too, or one of the reports. I know there's a lot of them, and the story that I read said that the Giants requested permission to interview Bob Melvin. My question is has he requested a permission to interview? Because if he does do the interview, then I would be convinced that he wants out.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't do the interview, it means he really wants to stay. And what does it really say about A.J. Preller and this organization and their position with him? Because most of the people I talk to want to keep him in place for next year, and this is not what not what anybody wants to hear, I think. So that's my question to you: did Bob Melvin request that?
Yeah, well,
interview,
I'll field this one. It's a little bit of semantics. Obviously, officially, if you want to talk to someone who's employed by another organization under contract, you officially have to go through Major League Baseball channels and ask permission to talk to that person. However, the first thing that the Padres would then do is, if they were inclined, would ask Bob, are you even interested in talking to them? If he said no, then it's, Bob would say no, I'm not interested, and then it would just be over, and you would never hear anything about it.
Like Will Venable just did in Texas about the Mets job.
So Bob obviously said, yes, I would like to interview with the Giants, or otherwise they simply would have denied permission. You will never see a scenario where a team would grant permission for their manager to interview, but then the manager would go, I'm not interested in that job. It would never get to that level. It would probably never even be reported publicly and through back channels. The Giants would have learned that Bob doesn't have any interest in our job, so they wouldn't have bothered asking and, risked being turned down and looking foolish for even pursuing someone who wasn't on the radar. So in my mind, Will, it's an absolute 100% sign that Bob Melvin is interested. And, as I said earlier, why wouldn't he be? The Padres are not offering him a contract extension. I don't know that they should after that season they just came off of. And the Giants almost certainly, if they hire Bob, won't do so for a one-year deal. They will give him probably a 3-year, maybe a 3-year option sort of deal. Not going to take a pay cut, I would think. He's already making $4 million a year here, so figure $4 to $5 million. I mean, he could get a $15 to $20 million contract with the San Francisco Giants, or play out 1 year with the Padres with no guarantee you even make it past May or June if things don't go well. It's kind of a no-brainer if you're a baseball person what the better situation for Bob Melvin would be. So, yes, Bob Melvin is definitely interested in the Giants job. He's also a Bay Area guy, and they love him up there, and more than we do down here. That's for sure. He's got more credibility up there than he's been able to build in 2 years down here.
I mean, he's a Bay Area guy, but he lives in Arizona, and he's the manager of the San Diego Padres with a really, really talented roster, whom he took to the NLCS. What in the world happened from then to now to make it so bad that he's interested in interviewing for the Giants. Now, this part in Dennis Lynn's latest piece says this. Now the optics are unfavorable again. The Padres are likely nearing a mutual parting of ways with their most decorated manager in decades. It is fair to question whether another well-regarded manager could coexist with Preller, but another firing would make everything look even worse. That's why they didn't fire him with a year left on his deal. Keeping a front-facing employee who appears interested in leaving might only exacerbate the problem by overstating his desire earlier this month to continue working with Melvin. Preller essentially put the ball in the court of the manager and the Giants, and that's exactly what I said. And for all the people now that are saying, well, F Bob if he doesn't want to be here.
Just wanted to bring that up.
That's exactly what...
That narrative is going around already.
That's exactly what you want. If you're AJ Preller, it's exactly what you want people to think.
Oh, if Bob doesn't want to be here, if he'd rather go to a division rival and stab us in the back, then screw him.
He played perfectly. Perfect.
Bob Melvin doesn't owe the Padres anything. He doesn't have to go to an American League team or an NL East team.
That's the master at work right there, getting you to now feel against Bob Melvin when in fact, again, you hired the guy that's now not happy after an NLCS appearance, a high payroll. You hired him. That's your decision. You made that decision. So don't hire people that don't want to be here. It still falls on AJ Preller, whether or not, Bob wants to go or doesn't want to go.
It's not like he was underpaid here.
I mean, let's say for argument's sake, let's play this out. Let's say there wasn't a huge rift, anything that they couldn't handle, right? There was just a healthy, as they said, both of them, a healthy conversation, 5 times a day, healthy conversation. Just for argument's sake. What happened then? Why didn't you want to be here? So now, if we talk to AJ Preller, we have to ask AJ Preller the question, but wait, what happened? You said he was excited. Is he not? Did he not get excited? What's more exciting about the San Francisco job?
I mean, I'd play it. I'd play it the way that I just said. Despite our mutual respect, we weren't prepared to offer Bob a contract extension after an 82-80 season.
But you're now so you be AJ and I'll be me. But you let him go to a division rival. Why weren't you? They were. You hired him. Why didn't you feel comfortable? He took you into NLCS. By the way, AJ, in your tenure, he's the only manager that's had winning seasons. 2 of them.
I'm not saying that the logic doesn't fall apart at some point. I agree with you that they're clearly you can't spin it the way they want to spin it. But here's how I try. We weren't going to offer Bob a contract extension at this point. The Giants were willing to give him many years, and out of the respect for Bob Melvin, who we stole away from the Oakland A's in very similar circumstances, we didn't feel like it was the right thing to do to tie him down for 1 season when he could get some more security for himself and his future with a different organization.
To Oakland
it's not similar.
But that's how I spin it if I'm the Padres.
Hey, Oakland said, "Hey Bob, we're moving to Vegas. Yeah. The fans are going to hate us.
Yeah.
We're slashing
you deserve
payroll,
better.
even for Oakland standards. You deserve to go to a better situation."
Yeah,
that's not what's happening here.
No, it's not. It's not. It just the bummer for me is there was a way forward. I said it. You had to get in a room together, and it's just very clear that there was nothing below surface level of, I can do it if you can. I mean, there was no work done on that relationship to repair, and there was no quarter given. Nobody said, you know what, I did. I blew it.
I think they need therapy.
That's a two-way street. Yeah.
Between both of them.
Yeah.
That's not on AJ alone.
Yeah.
That's on both of them.
And we know, and we all know AJ Preller well enough that I'm sure he's not easy to work with.
Sure.
But did Bob ever think I should put in the effort to try, or did he just come in thinking, "Hey, I got players. It's fine. It'll work out. I'll just do my thing."
Yeah.
And never even gave it an effort. I don't know what the true story is behind the scenes. Let's go to the phones again. Tim in Oceanside, you're next up with Ben and Woods here on 97.3 The Fan. Hello, Tim.
Good morning, Tim.
Good morning, gentlemen. Let me give a little spin on this. We failed because who's the one constant thing in the organization through all our failures? It's Preller. Why are we getting rid of the manager? I mean, if you have an illness and it's in your brain and it goes to your stomach, then it goes to your foot, the problem's not the person's body, it's the illness.
Yeah.
So cancer is well, I don't want to use the word cancer because I have a family member about to pass, but that just came to my head because of that. But the problem, the one consistent problem is Preller. Nobody can work with the guy. And putting a GM in there, like someone said earlier, and making him president wouldn't work. I mean, I own business. So I own my own business. So you can't take a problem and move it to another area and think it's going to get better.
Absolutely. Yeah, so you'd have to be able to acquiesce a little bit and say, no, that's which again, that's the hardest part for me to wrap my head around always is, don't you want, being the president of baseball operations is a pretty cool job. Don't you want an extra level of insulation around you? Don't you? Wouldn't a normal person think to themselves, yeah, I gave Ben enough rope, as the fairly crass saying goes. And Ben made these decisions. Ben made these decisions alone. He is my general manager, and we didn't get the job done. Ben, thank you for your service. I'm out. On to the next one. On to the next one. And that's what he's done, but he's done it with managers without that level of insulation around him. It's the old argument for me, an umpire not wanting the automatic strike zone. You're the dumbest home plate umpire in the world if you don't want that off your plate. That makes your job in life easier at the extra level. It's why the Mafia, Ben, they have insulation between the head guy, the boss, and the guys under him. It's a hierarchy. But when one guy's like, no, I'm going to do all this. I'm going to collect all the money. I'm going to kill all the people. No, you have people under you. They take the fall. You don't take the fall. But you have to be able to give responsibility and delegate. And that's just not something that's been able to go down.
All right, we're going to take another quick timeout. The phone lines are still open, 833-288-0973, The Fan. So we were talking earlier about if they hire Mike Schilt as manager, what we should name the weekly segment we'll do with Mike Schilt.
Holy Schilt.
The best suggestion just came in on the chat.
It's brilliant.
I think we need to reveal the new name of our Mike Schilt segment that doesn't even exist yet. When we come back with Ben and Woods on San Diego's #1 sports station. Check traffic. Be back with more here on The Fan. If you had to name an odds-on favorite as to who would be the manager of the Padres opening day 2024 now, who would be the one guy? Now, I don't know, mean that, yeah, I'm 75% sure. Your odds-on favorite could be like the 20% guy. Like Bob Melvin, I've got maybe less than 5% confidence he'll be the manager.
I'd say 0%.
You say 0.
If I had to give it a 1,
Yeah,
I guess.
I mean, if you got to give it something,
I
I'd
mean,
say
he's
1.
the current manager of the Padres until he's not. So
Right.
I can't give it a total 0 until he's gone.
Sure.
But I think it's very low, the odds that he'd be the manager. I think there's a ton of guys outside the organization that are all, 1 to 2%ers out there. But the top 2 have to be the main 2 guys from inside the organization who have been talked up. Flaherty or Schilt.
My gut tells me Schilt.
I would say that Schilt would be at least, 25 to 30% as the plurality favorite, just because of the experience that he has.
Yeah, the experience, the cachet of having done it before. Ryan Flaherty, and I think this is not uncommon. Ryan Flaherty is kind of one of the guys, right? Like, he's kind of one of the guys, and I don't know, if it were me at least, I don't know that I want that guy. I want a little bit more, as I just talked about insulation, I would want a little bit more of, I don't know that I want one of the guys being the manager. I just don't. Like, I think the experience, obviously, that Schilt has is bodes well for him. It makes me feel more comfortable as a fan. It does. It makes me feel instantly more comfortable than, hey, let's just get all their buddy in there to be the manager. And that's, we've been down there enough to see the interactions between those guys. And that's not a knock on Flaherty. He could be a great manager. I just think he would be a better look in another organization.
I know this is going to sound a little bit crazy, but I truly believe this, and I don't think I've ever even said it on the air. But I do believe that Jace Tingler could have grown into a good manager. Given a couple, if he hadn't had the collapse and really the necessity to make a change.
Why do you say that?
I feel like he had. I liked his attitude overall.
Very positive guy.
He was a positive guy. I felt like, he made some missteps and lost the locker room because they didn't have confidence in a younger manager. And I worry that Ryan Flaherty would also have the same problem. There's going to be, in this division especially, there's going to be some tough moments that you've got to fight through. Is Ryan Flaherty the guy that Manny Machado and Xander Bogaerts and Fernando Tatis Jr. and hopefully Juan Soto, are they going to fight through it for Ryan Flaherty? Because I thought Bob Melvin is someone that they'd have a hard time giving up on a guy like Bob Melvin with the reputation that he had. And they showed last year, as bad as things got, they did not pack it up at the end of the season. In fact, they ended up playing their best baseball at the end. Would that have been the case under Ryan Flaherty? I think Mike Schilt is someone who has at least enough experience and gravitas that, it might be tough to give up on a guy like Mike Schilt as well.
How much do we know about Mike Schilt? I don't think we ever really talked to him.
No, we haven't.
The three of us.
No,
but
he's old school.
It feels like Bob Melvin, it's going to be the same thing.
Bob Melvin light.
He's old school for sure.
He is.
But it brought up the tease. We were already speculating. What would we call a segment with the puns available with a name like Schilt if we had a weekly with Mike Schilt? And you suggested Talking Schilt.
Yeah, Talking Schilt.
And I said, what was mine again? I forgot mine.
Shooting
the Schilt. But Ray Darko suggested this, and because we're, of course, 97.3 The Fan, makes perfect sense. Schilt hits the fan.
Schilt hits
would
the
be
fan.
The perfect
But who wants
segment.
to? What if he's won 7 games in a row? Schilt's not hitting the fan.
No, well, I mean,
Oh,
Schilt,
the fan.
He's hitting the fan.
fan.
We're the fan.
We're the fan.
Schilt hits the fan
I
every
like
week.
that. I like that a
That's
lot.
why it's so clever.
Yeah, there's a lot we could do with Mike Schilt.
There is, but I don't think you really want to hire a manager simply based on the punability of his last name. No. It's got to be low on your list of priorities. Now, here's another take you're going to hate. AJ has gotten better at hiring managers. I would say that Tingler was better than Green.
Why don't you
Melvin
go on
was better than
vacation
Tingler.
right now for the love of... I can't believe you said that on the
Can he take another
radio.
step up on his fourth managerial hiring?
Fourth time's the charm bit?
Well, you get better each time. You learn some of the things you shouldn't do the first 3 times.
Did you eat edibles
earlier? Is it not true? Is it true or is it not true? I've liked every manager a little bit more than the previous one that AJ Preller has hired. You shouldn't have to hire that many managers. I get it.
you.
But you are moving in the right direction.
I cannot believe you.
All right, let's go back out to the phones.
I cannot believe you right now.
Ed in San Diego is next up.
I'm like actually upset at that.
Ed, welcome to 97.3 The Fan. Hey, turn down your radio, Ed, because you're on the air and we're on
you're
a
live,
delay.
buddy.
Wow, we're on a long delay with Ed's radio.
Edward?
Ed, we'll come back to you later. Let's go to
Weird
Lucas.
hearing Ben's awful take
You are
twice.
next. Makes it way worse. Lucas, welcome to Ben and Woods on 97.3 The Fan.
Hey, good morning, guys. How you doing?
Good, buddy.
Good. There's so much to talk about. Postseason's been great. You know, with the whole Melvin thing, it's like I love the dude. I wish he would stay. I don't think it's the fact that you're losing Melvin, because I think there's a ton of other managers that could bring something else.
Sure.
That you could, you know,
Yeah, he's
that
not
are
the-
out there that we don't know yet. That
It's not
would be
the end all
fantastic.
be all. You're right.
Yeah, but I think it's just, for me, it's almost just like depressing. Like, oh, nothing's gonna change, is it? You know, I think it's kind of just depressing. It's like, oh man, same old thing. This is our window, and we're getting rid of one of the rocks.
Yeah, it's back in the you're back in the torture chamber of a chaotic type scene, and really the only constant has been chaos. And by chaos I mean massively high turnover of coaches. Massively. I mean, and listen, coaches come in and they use places as springboards to other places and better gigs. That's not uncommon, but the amount here has been uncommon as it pertains to baseball. And you don't get the same steady voice. You don't get the same general principles every year. The players that come in are looking around going, this is a new coaching staff. Here's a new pitching coach. Here's a new hitting coach. Here's an offensive coordinator that's new. Here's a new manager. You know, Manny, again, this will be his fourth manager, and he signed, you know, he's been here 5 years. So that's weird to me. Is that right? His first manager was Green?
First manager was Andy Green. Absolutely. He was here in that 2018 season with Andy Green.
Yeah.
And then Andy Green
So this will be number 4.
Fired after 2019, and then they hired Jay Stingler for 2020 and 2021, and then Bob Melvin for 2022 and 2023.
I know exactly how that caller was feeling. It's just this kind of wave of like, oh my God, again, nothing changes if nothing changes. So that's been the only constant here.
I do think, and one of the reasons why I wanted to keep Bob Melvin was I didn't want to see a ton of turnover again. They don't need another adjustment period to a new staff. I hope they can keep, you know, some of the same pieces in place. That's why an in-house option does make some sense. If you can keep, you know, a Ruben Niebla as pitching coach and some of the other guys, so you don't show up at spring training and have to readjust to everything. We didn't do a great job adjusting last year to new rules right away. We didn't do a great job adjusting to a weird spring training with the World Baseball Classic, to a lockout. It would be nice to have a spring training that wasn't about getting to know new guys and adjusting, but it seems like there's going to at least be some of that. Now, if you hire a Mike Schilt or a Ryan Flaherty, probably at a minimum. I mean, every team has some turnover and change from one season to the next. Everyone deals with that. That would keep it probably to the lower ends of what kind of adjustments you'd have to make going into next season.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I mean, and that's at least you get with one of those guys, at least you do get, at a bare minimum, the familiarity. But I stand by that point of like, if it's Mike Schilt, great. And here's the thing, man. This is and Padre fans, and I'm not speaking for you. I'm speaking for me. Whoever it is, and it will be somebody new. Whoever it is, we have to give him a fair shake. Period. You have to. I said it earlier. This is what the bowl that
Why
we've been
wouldn't
given.
you?
You have to. You got to give him a fair shake.
Why
And I'm not gonna,
wouldn't you give any manager of your team an opportunity to show his stuff?
Absolutely. And it's the comparison. What's the saying about comparison? It's death. You can't. You're not. Whoever it is not.
Comparison is death.
Yeah.
That well-known saying.
No, it is.
It is.
It is a saying. Comparison is the cousin of death, or something like that. If you continuously compare, well, you're not as good as this guy. You're not as good as this guy. You're not as good as this guy.
It's the grass isn't always greener on the other side.
That works too.
That's a comparison saying that people like to use.
Comparison is the death of joy.
The death of no, that's not it.
All right.
Maybe it is. Comparison to the Thief of Joy.
Mark Twain.
Mark Twain. Yeah. Well, listen.
English
it's,
major. Yeah, a little Mark Twain in the back of your head.
And that's true. Like, if Ryan Flaherty comes in, we have to give him a shot. You got to give him a shot. You got to see how he does. But, you also have to be fair in saying it's going to suck because that's when you, as a fan, you're irrational sometimes and you go, well, I mean, this wouldn't happen if Bomel was here. You know what I mean? That's the bummer of it all. So, I like mine better. Comparison is death. I think it's more succinct than Mark Twain.
Have we seen who's the last really young manager who's come in and had a lot of success in baseball? Because I'm looking at the managers who are currently still managing this year.
Schumacher?
Skip,
yeah, I mean, but in terms of like World Series titles, has anyone come in as a 39 to 43-year-old and won a World Series title at that young age recently? Because the managers right now, Dusty Baker, Bruce Bochy, Torey Lovello, and Rob Thompson, none of those guys are young.
He's not super old.
Snitker, I mean, he's not.
Bucky Harris, Ben.
Bucky Harris.
Yeah, 27 years old. He led the Senators to a 1924 World Series title.
I mean,
27.
Even Dave
hasn't even been 100 years
Even
yet.
Dave Martinez, when he won it with the Nationals, he was a younger manager, but he was in his 50s. I mean, he's 59 right now. It's not exactly a proven strategy to go with a young player. Now, David Ross, there's been some, recent players who have jumped in, Gabe Kapler, that have had some success. But in terms
A.J.
of...
Hinch won a World Series.
Okay, he was a younger manager. But for the most part, it's been those veteran guys who've been taking their team the deepest. Now, there's more of them out there, so it's also, you got to take that into consideration. But I don't know. I still lean Schilt over Flaherty in the in-house options.
Yeah, I think I do too. But, man, this is... not a fun one, for sure.
All right, every line is blinking, 833-288-0973. We'll come back, continue our Padres discussion. We've talked about some of the contenders out there. We want to know, hey, you got a name? Don't just say Ozzie Guillen, please. But if you've got a name that you think is a legitimate guy who could take over this job, we want to hear it. Give us a call. We'll be back with more Ben and Woods
we'll
next.
Hear your calls after our conversation
that's
with
right.
Jordan Schusterman.
We've already got to
it's Monday, and that's
gone.
what we do.
That got
at
so
8:30
fast.
every single Monday.
He's at the 19th hole right now.
No, I just feel like it's gone so fast. Like, how could we have already gone through 2.5 hours this morning? All right, Jordan Schusterman will have some thoughts on this. Then back to your calls on 97.3 The Fan.
Talking about it helps. I feel better than I did. I was stewing yesterday. I feel a little bit better. Having you guys here, having Jordan Schusterman from Cespedes Family Barbecue to come on. Talking about it helps.
That's what we do for 4 hours every day. We talk about it.
It's a good therapeutic
and
thing.
The tier ones are all part of the conversation. Whether you call or join the chat or not, we know you're listening.
Yeah.
We know you're part of this conversation as well, and we appreciate it. We got Jordan standing by from Cespedes Family Barbecue. It's a grand old Monday. I threw my hat on because, hey, who doesn't love grand old barbecue?
I do.
Jordan's going to join us right after this check of traffic on 97.3 The Fan.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic Center, here's Kelly Danick.
Traffic is sponsored by SDG&E. We still have this crash blocking the fast lane on the coastline, South 5 near La Costa, and a collision in the clearing stage, northbound 15 before Friars Road. Tow truck is on scene. That is in the center divide. In peak wildfire season, as a last resort, SDG&E may need to shut off power in specific areas for public safety. Learn more about public safety power shutoffs at sdge.com/PSPS. I'm Kelly Danick with Ben & Woods, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
All right, so Jake Mintz, who would normally be in this segment this week, is traveling, you said, Paulie. So Jordan Schusterman is going to join us back-to-back weeks here on 97.3 The Fan. And Jordan, would it surprise you to learn we've spent 95% of our first 2.5 hours talking about the news that broke yesterday that the Padres are giving Bob Melvin permission to interview for the San Francisco Giants managerial job. And we're pretty much assuming that means he's going to be the next manager of the San Francisco Giants, and we're going to need to hire someone here in San Diego. Good morning.
Do you want the job?
Oh, good morning, guys. Yeah, it's funny because I remember we talked about how we had that big graphic that they put out, on the Padres social that basically said nothing, and they were just like, we're good. All is well. We are going to just move forward and continue on as if everything is totally normal. And it all felt that, to say too good to be true is kind of the wrong way to put it in this context because we know all the stuff going on behind the scenes here. But I can't say I'm shocked that there is another twist to this story.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't either. The signs were kind of popping up along the road, and you look at it and go, okay, yeah, I don't know why I was so mad. I actually thought that this was going to happen, but I found myself yesterday upset. And, man, Jordan, and you know this, you're a fan of the Mariners. They've had Scott Service there a long time. He's a steady hand, but you go into the offseason wondering as a Mariners fan, are we going to spend some cash? Are we going to spend some cash to get the job done? We go into the offseason going, I have no earthly idea what's going to happen. Aroldis Chapman could be here and in the rotation because who knows? Weird stuff happens when you cover the San Diego Padres. You never know. And that's kind of been the theme, is that it's just chaotic. It's been chaotic.
Yeah. And also I think it's a good point where now, as we know, Padres had a very fun offseason roster-wise last winter, and it didn't exactly work out. But at the same time, I'd still rather be thinking about that. I think as a fan, you mentioned Scott Service. Yeah, he's it seems weird because it doesn't feel like it's been that long, but he's the fourth longest tenured manager in baseball. Although I guess now second longest tenured because Council CBD and then Terry Francona, of course, is moving on. So yeah, I haven't had to think about that. The roster is always way more fun to think about and also way more fun to debate. But because the Padres have so much stuff going on with the leadership, what's frustrating here is there's a sequence where the Padres and Bob Melvin kind of agreed to part ways 2 weeks ago, and then he ends up at the Giants job. And that doesn't feel good, but it feels better than this, I think. Is that fair to say?
Very, 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 very fair. And the chaotic nature of it is tough.
But if they had said that 2 weeks ago before the Giants came asking, then they probably would have had to pay out Bob Melvin's contract. Now they most likely will not have to do that. The Giants can just take that on and give him an extension. So a lot of people are suggesting that A.J. Preller was simply playing a bit of a Machiavellian game going, I don't really think we're going to keep Bob Melvin, but I think there's another team that wants him badly enough that I don't have to be the one that pulls the trigger in this case.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is just the disappointing element of that there is just kind of the language that was used to kind of act like that there wasn't an issue, or I feel like there could have been lighter language used over the last couple of weeks from both ownership and from Preller that would have not led people to believe that everything was fine. I don't know, not to say that everything was okay, it was great, but there could have been a little bit looser talking points, but instead it was like, yeah, we're good. Like, I don't know why people think there's no
if you were on the Zoom, it was pretty loose. Woods was never totally convinced. The only thing I think they could have done, Jordan, was just not say anything at all.
Yeah.
Which would have been very odd, but they could have just gone radio silent for a couple of weeks and left us all stewing.
That goes back to this graphic that they put out for no reason. Like that, like there's, for example, look at what's going on with the Yankees. Okay, now I know Yankees fans are not particularly happy, but like they said, we're reviewing stuff, and we still haven't heard from them, which is frustrating. But also, it's like we're just assuming they're figuring it out, and then we're going to find out what happens.
Well, the statement was Peter Seidler's optimism. He is an optimistic owner who really does not. He does not want to acknowledge the negative side of things. I love it about Peter, and he thought the best of people and just said, "We can make this work." I love AJ. I love Bob. Why they can work it out? We're going to do this, and that was his optimism talking when they released that statement. That's what I believe.
Yeah, and reading some of Dennis Lynn's fantastic reporting over the last 24 hours, reminded me of the quote from Seidler earlier this year. I think it was during the season where he says, "I'm not afraid to make changes, but I value stability." And so it's like when they put out the graphic, when they announced the end of the regular season, like, we're going to clearly prioritize stability here, but it seemed like there was something that clearly his optimism could not overcome here. Now, ultimately, as Dennis kind of wrote, maybe this works out in a way that Preller would like. But again, does that make the fans? We got to think of you guys and the fans who listen to the show and who want the Padres to turn it around. Does the ultimate result here make us feel better about the direction of the team? And I don't really know the answer to that.
Yeah, I definitely don't, but I'm willing to give it a shot because, as a fan, I don't have a choice. Jordan, I really don't. Talking to our pal Jordan Schusterman here on Ben and Woods this morning on a grand old Monday. Padres aside, playoffs have been fantastic as of late. Some of the best games you've ever seen. Ben asked me the question, do I think Abreu hit Adolis Garcia on purpose? I do. I do feel like it was intentional. And I know, you know that you never want to put another guy on there. Rangers didn't score there. They could have absolutely scored and taken that game out of hand right now using that so-called momentum that you get from an emotionally charged event like that. They didn't. And they allowed the Astros to hang around, and Altuve does what he does in the postseason, man. That was a remarkable baseball game.
Oh, 100%. But I'm glad you bring that up because, right, if you're the Rangers, whether you think it's intentional or not, you take your free base runner in that situation and make the most of it. And they weren't able to do that. Of course, they bounced back in a big way last night, including Adolis Garcia, which was very cool to see.
Incredible.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's disappointing to have any of this settle. Like I'm on the side of I don't believe it was intentional, but like either way, like it sucks that we're now heading towards this maybe being impacted by suspension, and that just does not make me feel good about any of it, to be honest. But we will see how that impacts Game 7, because not just not having Abreu, but it's sort of instructed how they managed last night's game too. Maybe they used Presley in the game last night to keep it closer if they don't want to save him for a Game 7. So there's a lot of ways that this is obviously going to impact things, but there's so many ways that this game can go that we might not even be thinking about it at all. And there's versions where that is all we're going to be talking about once the game's over.
Talking to Jordan Schusterman from Cespedes Family Barbecue here on a grand old Monday. We haven't talked a lot about the NLCS, Jordan, but I'm impressed that the Diamondbacks have even gotten it back to Philly and won 2 games in this series. I still think they are massive underdogs. I mean, even the games they won close, they squeezed them out. Feel like Philly at any moment can just bash you over the head with the guys that they have. But do you think that there's any chance that the Diamondbacks can win 2 on the road in that house of horrors?
So I picked Phillies in 7, so I feel pretty good that the D-backs have given them this much of a fight. I think that what Game 5 was such a reminder of that talent gap, because even when not everything's working for you, you can throw out a Zach Wheeler and homers from Harper, Schwarber, and Real Muto. Like, that's a lot of really good baseball players that are only, especially in Harper's case, Harper had done nothing in Games 3 and 4. he's not going to go quiet for 3 games in a row. Like, that's just not going to happen. And it's not like Zach Gallen pitched terribly, but what the Phillies have shown over and over is they will not miss mistakes. And that is enough to win playoff games when your pitching has generally been this good. We saw the Diamondbacks kind of thrive in the chaos and unpredictability of games 3 and 4. But once you get back to kind of the top of the roster, that's really where kind of the talent gap shows out. Now, again, I think if you're counting out the D-backs entirely, that's probably foolish. But I still think that what we saw from Nola, not that Merrill Kelly was bad, I just think that what we saw from Nola in the first game, even if he's a little bit worse, I think they're in really good position back home where, of course, they've just been so dominant. So I expect the Phillies to kind of take care of it. But this D-backs team has impressed me in so many ways, and there's a lot to be excited for there, as much as you guys probably hate it.
Yeah, we do. We hate it very much. Just another hurdle to show. I'm talking to Jordan Schusterman from the great Cespedes Family Barbecue here on Ben and Woods this morning. We've talked earlier, Astros fans are used to this, what's going on right now. Bregman has played in, I think, 7 Game 7s. He's used to it. A lot of their players are used to it. If you're the Texas Rangers and you're a fan of that team, you're going to be white-knuckling through a Game 7 anyway. You're really white-knuckling with, it sounds weird to say, Max Scherzer on the hill today. It's got to be the quickest leash of all time for Bochy today. He's going to really earn his money tonight, Bruce Bochy, if they end up getting this win.
Totally, and it's really interesting. We just recorded our podcast before I hopped on with you guys, and we talked about Scherzer and kind of how much the pressure is on him. And to me, it's interesting because I view it a little bit like I kind of compared it to the Kershaw situation, where it's like Kershaw's clearly not at his best anymore, and so the upside is greater than the downside. Like, to me, and I'm speaking to me personally, Kershaw and Scherzer do not have anything more to prove to me. However, the upside of him actually showing up and dominating for 6 innings would be one of the great, legendary postseason performances of all time, right? If he struggles, and now you mentioned the quick leash, okay, who you turn to?
I know,
and this is the situation that they're in the first place, is the fact that they even feel like he's their best option to start this game or to start Game 3. And I don't know if he is, but he might be. I think there's a chance he is. And even if he's okay, how are we getting the rest of those outs? I mean, I think we are going to see Aroldis Chapman at some point tonight if the Rangers are winning. I don't know when they want to do that. Like, they stayed away from him last night. I think that was instructive and said a lot about how kind of Josh Sports is maybe left ahead of him in the depth chart. But like we just said, like, there's no way, even a good Scherzer outing is probably not getting you that deep into the game.
Right.
And so I can't wait to see how. But by the way, I would also say, especially if Brian Abreu's out of the mix, I think there's questions about how the Astros get through the game. As good as Christian Javier is going to be, those other relievers besides Presley have been way shakier. And so I think how they're going to get the 27 outs is also going to be a really interesting challenge for Dusty Baker.
I'm telling you, man, I've already given the wife the edict. Just at 2:00, I'm done. I'm out. I don't live here. I'm like locked in for like another 8 hours. But I'm not here. If you look for me, I'm not here. I can't wait.
As we wrap up, Jordan, before you go, I'm going to ask you this because I respect your baseball opinions. And as the Padres now are probably looking to hire a new manager, and we're seeing what Dusty and Bruce Bochy are doing in the ALCS, how much do you think a manager impacts a team in baseball? Is it a lot? Is it a little? Is it none? I mean, there are wide opinions on this subject in baseball.
But also, Jordan, please take into account Manny Machado will now be playing for his 4th manager in 5 years. So it's different than just how good of a manager is he. It's how many managers can really affect the psyche of players that have been there.
100%. But again, I think that you guys asking me this question is both the most appropriate and the hardest to answer, because you just watched Bob Melvin go to the NLCS and then manage a complete catastrophe in back-to-back years. So with a lot of respect and praise for his, and as we are now seeing, another team wanting to hire him immediately, right? So that tells me something. At some point there's some amount of track record or examples of things where I like to think that you are good at what you do. I think I've said this on the show before, like in my head, Jake and I always think that there's 3 good managers and 3 bad managers and the rest of them are kind of coin flips. Now that's kind of dismissive to the amount of work that it takes to get to that position and what it actually means to go through an entire season like that. So I would say they definitely don't mean nothing. And I think that especially when you get to this time of year, there's clearly versions where managers have more say than others. And that's another big part of it too. It's so hard to grade them when we don't even know each one how much control each of them has. That varies per organization, and that makes it super hard to say. So I would say it does matter, and I think that it does matter as much during the regular season as anything, because you do ultimately have to get to the postseason. And while it's maybe not the pitching moves you're making in June and July, there clearly is something about the amount of trust that the players have and knowing that everybody is on the same page. Sometimes that just means knowing that the manager's boss is on the same page as the manager. And as we know, this year that was clearly an issue.
Jordan, appreciate it. Enjoy the World Series coming up. Thank you.
Thank you guys as always.
Thanks, buddy. Jordan Schusterman from Cespedes Family Barbecue on our Grand Old Monday. I do believe that the manager is important, but I've seen both theory. I've seen people say the manager is important in the regular season when, he has to establish some consistency and that long-term managerial strategy. But once he gets to the playoffs, it doesn't matter. Anything can happen. I've seen the opposite. I've seen the manager doesn't really matter in the regular season, but it's in those playoff series, those one or two decisions that really the manager can make a big difference in winning a championship. So which is it? I mean, is it both? Is it neither? That's the confusing part of what a manager really can impact for your team, because they clearly can, but no one really can totally agree on what it is and quantify how much they do affect your team's record over the long haul and the short run.
Well, I mean, listen, the manager is also as important as the general manager that builds him a team. And it does, there's been a lot of managers that have benefited from great teams. There's been a lot of managers that are probably really good managers, never had a nickel to work with. So I think at the end of the day, the results speak loudest. Unfortunately,
Bruce Bochy was always a better manager when he had better players and more talent to work with.
As most guys are.
Yeah. All right, we'll come back. We can talk more Padres, managerial search. Get your thoughts coming up next here on 97.3 The Fan. Final hour of Bennett Woods. First 3 hours spent almost entirely on the Padres saga. I mean, you thought it was the most head-scratching and disappointing season in Padres history. Wait until you get to this off-season now. The strangeness we've already seen with Bob Melvin now heading to interview with the San Francisco Giants. Padres likely needing to replace a manager. If this news hadn't broken yesterday, we had plenty to talk about this weekend, though. Plenty to talk about. It was... I mean, this is San Diego, so I'm not going to say it was the worst ever sports weekend, because we've had some bad ones. But this one certainly is noteworthy in how bad it was. It started on Friday night, had the event to reveal the San Diego FC logo, crest, colors. We had already talked about it on Friday because of the leak and went over about as well as you expected. Then the Gulls lost their home opener on Friday night. On Saturday, the San Diego State Aztecs not only lost to a team that had dropped 16 straight games, but the numbers were staggering. Nevada was one of the worst defenses in football. They were giving up like 500 yards a game, over 300 yards passing. The Aztecs went 0 for 10 on third down conversions.
Oh, my God.
Jalen Maiden threw for 47 yards.
Oh, my God.
And they got shut out in a 6-0 loss.
Paulie, do you have the game notes? I've been waiting actually all weekend. I forgot to mention it before the show. So dig for the game notes, because I don't know how you...
Not that anyone cares, but USD lost to Drake for the first time in, I think, 12 years or something. San Diego State basketball even lost a closed-door scrimmage to Arizona State, although they were playing without Darion Trammell, and I heard it was a pretty good game. And then on Sunday, of course, last night, the Loyal jump out. They score in like 4 minutes in. They've got the lead.
Place is going
It's
bananas.
going crazy. I was watching the whole thing on the ESPN Plus stream. Locals, the Chavos, they're screaming. Then Phoenix comes back to take a 3-2 lead. And then in like the miracle, you think, oh, this is just destiny. In the 6th or 7th minute, I mean, we are deep into stoppage time. The Loyal get a penalty called in the box, in the corner of the box on. It was a foul, but it wasn't like one of those, he took down a guy that was about to score a goal. Bumped him in the corner of the box. They were awarded the penalty kick. Damus gets his hat trick to tie the game, send it to overtime. You're thinking, this is going to be the greatest ever. Yeah, to extra time.
Smarten up.
And unfortunately, they play like 29 minutes, no one scores, and then in the last minute, Phoenix gets the goal to win it 4-3, and that's it. Like, all of a sudden, the Loyal are it's over. It's gone. The season's over. The franchise is over, and that's how our disappointing sports weekend ended here in San Diego.
I flipped on the Aztecs game in the last couple minutes.
I watched
about 10
a lot
minutes.
of it. It was so brutal.
So again, I saw a lot of people. I mean, obviously upset. It's the product. It's the price. It's all of it. You know, people were. Some guy tweeted, it was genius. He goes, "I realized tonight I could have ordered in steak and lobster to my home, watched it with a nice bottle of wine, and it would have cost me less than what it did to go to the Aztecs game, who have now just got shut out at home to a team that has not won in 16 consecutive games, man. What a new low.
Worst defense in the
worst,
country.
Yeah, Ben just said they were giving up a ton of...
0
Aztecs
points.
were favored by 12?
11 and a half, I think.
Yeah. Holy cow. So people were asking, how does Brady Hoke have a job? Well, there's 5 million reasons why he has a job today, right? Like, $5 million is not... If it's Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, bro, if it's $50 million buyout, they don't care. You're done. Get out. Beat it. $5 million to the Aztecs. They just built this new stadium. That's probably a good chunk of change to make a guy go away. But that sucks. You're backed in a corner, and you got to keep rolling with this coach and a staff that they're just not getting the job done. What a terrible, terrible, terrible product that is
Brady
to watch.
Hoke is now officially, I like this word. It's a great word that only sportscasters use. He's embattled.
An embattled
head coach now, Brady Hoke.
Oh, God. It was putrid.
I saw some of the excuse makers say, well, Brady was right, with the NIL and the new format of college football. There's just no way San Diego State can compete. They can't offer these 6-figure NIL deals. And That may be true when you're going up against teams, even like a UCLA that you lost to, or even an Oregon State in the Pac-12. But that doesn't explain
how
losing
many NIL deals do the guys at Nevada have?
Air Force. They don't get any NIL deals at all. That doesn't excuse losing your conference games to opponents.
Oh my God!
Like Nevada, to getting your doors blown off by Air Force.
No.
It's completely unacceptable.
Come on, guys. It's not all that bad.
Whoa, what's the spin?
Well, this isn't my spin.
I know.
This is from the post-game notes from the school.
My favorite part of the week.
We'll start off.
But they were defensively oriented.
Yeah, let's start off with team notes. The Aztecs allowed just 3 points in the first quarter. It was the 5th straight first quarter that SDSU did not allow a touchdown.
Hey, that's not. You're happy about that if you're a team that wins football games. You're like, hell yeah, nobody scores on us in the first quarter. That's great.
San Diego State has gone 11 straight games without allowing more than 7 points in the first quarter.
Again, something to build on.
San Diego State held an opponent without a first half touchdown for the second time this season.
Nice. Great.
They have now held 6 of their last 18 opponents without a touchdown in the first half.
How'd the coin flip go?
They lost the coin toss for the 5th time this season. I'm glad you asked.
Embattled head coach Brady Hoke loses another coin flip.
SDSU started with the
By
ball.
the way, they didn't call it. They were the home team.
They started with the ball for just the 111th time in the last 153 games.
Okay.
So it's not all bad.
I said this on Twitter, and I really believe it. It should be punishment for losing a fantasy league to have to go to one of those games on a Saturday night. No phone. You're not allowed to take your phone, and you have to go sit from kickoff to the end of the game. It was torture. Watching it on television was torture. There are 14 people in the stands. And if you're J.D. Wicker, you're just going, oh, my God, kill me. This is terrible.
Thank God for basketball season.
I even subjected myself to Brady Hoke's post-game
You did
news conference,
Oh,
and
Lord.
one of the it wasn't he
I
wasn't
gave it about
trying
20
to
seconds,
he
and
wasn't
then-
trying to make an excuse, but you had a couple of drop passes and the fumble, and he mentioned that unfortunately the center sweats a lot, and he got too much sweat on the ball.
Yeah, I'm sweaty. What do you want to do? It's
slippery.
wet.
It's
a wet
he said
ball.
it's something
Who can handle a wet ball?
they had to deal with because he's just a really sweaty guy, and the ball gets kind of slick and sweaty.
What do you want me to do?
Oh,
It's all looped up.
That was rough. It was rough.
I mean,
It hurts my throat to do.
I've
Brady Hoke.
never been more disinterested in the football program.
It is
It's awful.
It is a warm.
They have to win 3 of their last 4 just to get to bowl eligibility.
Who cares? And the bowls will be horrible. What is a warm glass of milk? That curdled glass of buttermilk. Watching that team, it was so putrid, and I feel terrible for the kids. It's not their fault, man. Like, Jalen Mayden's a friggin' safety. He's playing quarterback. That's the thing that I can't wrap my head around. NIL be damned. You have to get somebody that can throw a football. That's priority number 1. You see it at a million other schools around the country. Like, hey, we're not great, but our guy can sling it. Like, he can throw it. Yeah, the guy that transferred Ben to Washington, Haskell, he's gone. You know, they didn't like the direction of the way the program was going. That's on Brady, man.
But even when they brought in guys who, they thought could throw the football,
They ran the football.
They didn't throw it effectively. They just haven't been able to do so under Brady Hoke. And to be honest, and I don't want to sound mean, but when Brady had first couple of good seasons, it was mostly with Rocky Long's players.
Sure.
And now that we're seeing the mostly Brady Hoke recruited teams had a disappointing year last year, even more so this year. And yet with the contract extension and the new stadium, they're in a real bind because what do you do? I mean, you slash prices at the stadium to get people in the door, then you're not making enough money to pay off the stadium fees, the loans that you took out, the bonds that you issued to build your stadium, or you fire Brady Hoke to try to bring in an exciting coach to, jazz everyone up and fill the stadium that way, but you're paying off a huge buyout and paying obviously another head coach a lot of money.
You gotta make the
who probably
right
is going to
hire.
need a couple of years to recruit players and get guys in, and it doesn't solve your NIL issue, which is still a big deal. I mean,
why does anybody even like sports? When you paint it like that, you're like, oh.
It's a real issue now. the San Diego State Aztecs have built an incredible basketball program, and I credit J.D. Wicker and I credit Brian Dutcher and, of course, Steve Fisher for an amazing thing. They've invested wisely in the Jam Center, in everything that they've done that has made that a nationally relevant top program in sports. So I know they can do it. Football's got its own set of challenges, but they got to figure it out. They have to figure it out. At the minimum, they should be competing for a Mountain West title. If they're going to be in the Mountain West, they should be at the top of the Mountain West every year. I'm not saying
really hard to.
I'm not saying hey, you lose once or twice
Sure.
to Boise or Fresno State. Fine, I understand that, but
UNLV's good.
You can't be losing to Nevadas and Air Forces in these games and finishing in the middle of the pack in the Mountain West
and think you deserve to be in the Pac-12. That's the thing.
Or any major
any conference. What conference is like? Sign us up, man. Sign us up. We need that brand of football in our conference. It was
your only shot is the conference saying we want that brand of basketball.
Correct.
And we'll just deal with the football team.
I mean,
as well.
it was horrific. The broadcast was dark. Just look, there was no one there, and you got 6-0, man. Holy smokes! Shutout at home. That's a new low.
I mean, as the notes, the defense was good. I mean,
I said into your tweet, it really helps the point differential.
The defense was
at the end of the day.
defense was solid, and Brady Hoke's a defensive-minded coach, but you can't win if you don't score points. No. Ask Magic Johnson. He knows. He's got the wisdom. As he tweeted yesterday, hard to win in the NFL when you only score 7 points.
It's even harder when you score 0 points.
That's much harder when you score 0 points. So, all right, it was a tough weekend, but no, let's relight the phone lines for Padres fans. 833-288-0973. We're thinking options here with Bob Melvin likely out the door. Who is A.J. Preller going to be able to work with? Because everyone assumes, Mike Schilt, he's in the building. He's the guy. He's been in your front office.
If you're Schilt, though, you know the inner workings, right? Like, you're down there.
You know what you're getting into.
What you're getting into. But again, I said earlier, every manager's a cuck. We all are. For the job we want, we think we can handle it.
No, I don't want someone who will take the job. There are thousands of people who would take the job, including established managers. You mentioned Buck Showalter would take the job in a heartbeat. Who is going to?
I'm sure Joe Musgrove would love that.
Who is going to take the job, but it's not going to immediately turn into the same situation with Bob Melvin.
I guess the proof is kind of in the pudding that it absolutely will. How do you tell me, a new manager, hey, things are going to be different this time?
But also, you can't simply go and hire a Jace Tingler and just guy who
Ryan
just does
Flaherty.
Everything, because you need someone who's going to have the respect
We've
of
done
your
it 2 other
players
times.
and your
Why not?
clubhouse. Well, you can, but can you make it work?
No.
So
maybe it works. That's left to the gods, basically.
All the issues.
Manny could hit 335 next year and 40 bombs.
Yeah.
All the issues,
But
though.
it's not going to be because of the manager.
All the issues that A.J. Preller needed to work out with Bob Melvin don't go away
Correct.
simply because Bob Melvin goes
gone.
away. They just transfer to the next manager. I'm sure there'll be a honeymoon period. Until you lose your first game, everything's fine. But at some point, he's going to have to go through a reckoning with whoever he hires. Or whoever he hires is going to have to go through a reckoning with the players who just see him as an AJ puppet. If it's someone who doesn't have power, but if it's someone who does have power, then that has to be worked out behind the scenes with the San Diego Padres.
As I said earlier, it does not. If it's a hire like Ryan Flaherty or some other upstart in the Texas Rangers organization with no managerial experience, it does nothing to dispel the rumors, and more than rumors, written in articles, that all you want around you are guys that are going to agree with you. It does nothing. In fact, it just bolsters everyone's argument that, you got to hire somebody that will agree with every word you say. Sycophants are fantastic sometimes, but when you need a different opinion, when you need to be challenged, when you need to be checked, and when you actually have to look in the mirror to do the actual growth, that's really hard to do. And it just sounds like Bob and AJ, neither, not just AJ, neither of them were willing to say, I'm at fault. It's very hard to do. You ever have to go in front of your wife and say, this is on me. I did this, and I'm sorry, and I will be better. And this is what I'm doing to change my behavior. It's really hard work, dude. And it doesn't happen in 2 weeks. And obviously we saw how it ended.
All right, we'll come back, 833-288-0973. Your show, we want to hear from you, Tier 1s, Padres fans, on the flagship here this morning on San Diego's #1 sports station. Check traffic, be back with more on 97.3 The Fan.
Exciting night tonight,
Yeah,
Benjamin.
busy sports, day, because
Day
you
and
got
night.
NLCS Game 6, first of all, at 2:07.
Okay.
Phillies hosting the Arizona Diamondbacks. It is Merrill Kelly against Aaron Nola. And then at 5:03, you've got ALCS Game 7 with Max Scherzer and the Texas Rangers visiting Christian Javier and the Houston Astros. And then at 5:15, got a good Monday Night Football matchup, San Francisco 49ers and the Minnesota Vikings playing in Minnesota, in Minneapolis. But you know that head-to-head, football will always beat out baseball.
Yeah, I don't care.
To me, if you are a sports fan, why would you ever turn down a winner-take-all Game 7 between two in-state rivals in a series that has featured potentially a beanball, you had a benches-clearing brawl, the drama that we have seen between those two teams, or you've got a regular season game against a really good 49ers team and a somewhat disappointing Minnesota Vikings team. I mean, it's a no-brainer to me.
I wouldn't watch that football. I will not see one single solitary play of that game tonight. I couldn't imagine turning.
You wouldn't change during the commercial breaks,
no.
at least, just
no,
to see
I don't
what's
want
going
to lose.
on.
I missed too much
during the commercial breaks.
I just missed too much. You know how my focus is.
You won't turn it back.
It's just, I mean, if it was,
I won't.
Like I have multiple screens. If it was last night's game, Miami and Philly, maybe it's muted on another screen. I just don't.
I didn't even watch that game,
The
bro.
49ers are going to roll the Vikings. Who cares?
I have already gave my wife today. I mentioned it when we had Jordan from Cespedes Family Barbecue on. As I'm walking out the door, this is what I hit her with.
Don't ask me to do nothing. This is nothing.
Nothing. Again. Don't.
I'm not going to. So quit asking.
Can you give the kids a bath?
Don't ask me to do nothing. This is
No,
nothing.
bath, not dishes.
I'm not doing any of it.
Okay.
I don't exist. I'm like Paul's dad and my birth dad. I'm gone.
You're an absentee father.
I'm out of the picture. I'm gone.
That clip that we played, if you're new to the Ben and Wood Show, that's a
That's
couple
old.
years
That's
back.
like
Very
5
old.
years old,
Yeah, that's
man.
very
It was
old.
a Steelers fan,
Yeah.
I believe. It was
Yeah.
one of those fan reaction videos.
His buddy was filming him.
You know, somebody's sitting behind filming,
Snickering.
Someone's like this, watching the last seconds of a game, and this guy goes ballistic. Like
He
missed
loses
field
his
goal
mind.
to win the game, to lose the game
Yeah.
or something, and he just goes nuts, screaming at his family.
Don't ask me to do nothing. This is nothing.
He just wanted to make sure that she knew the pain that he was feeling.
Right.
He is unable to do menial tasks like dishes at this point. Don't ask me to do anything. Just leave me alone in my. I want to wallow in this.
I found that when I'm disappointed in my sports team, I like diving into chores just to distract myself.
Save that. I like diving into chores just to distract myself. Is such a good one.
That's a great time to do dishes.
You know what?
After the Padres lose another heartbreaking game, just get to the sink
But-
and start doing dishes.
But when you're watching a playoff game, you're right. There's a. I remember when the Padres were in the playoffs last year. If you wanted me to do a task, if you wanted me to fold laundry, just throw a trough of
right
laundry in front of me, and I will just
do that
sit.
all the time.
I can't
fold,
sit
watch,
and just
fold, watch, fold, watch.
yeah.
I do that all
I do
the
it
time.
every Sunday.
But-
We got Red Zone on TV and a coffee table full of folded
I was doing that
laundry.
yesterday. Red zone, fold, coffee. Yeah,
But
exactly.
I'm telling you, man, my wife is gonna be. She's gonna. It's Monday.
You say that.
Bo's out of school all day. Like, there's no way she's gonna be like, "Don't worry, I got it," and she doesn't have to. It's kind of a joke, but that clip to me is. I always try to hit her with it. With "Don't ask me to do nothing."
Don't ask me to do nothing. This is nothing.
So I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I will bathe those kids at like 3:00 today and be like, "All right, you're done. Leave me alone. I'm locking myself in my room." It's why I want Playoff House so bad. My idea of Playoff House, we get a house. And it would have been helpful if the Padres were in the playoffs. I'm glad we didn't book anything or promote it because we would have looked like morons. But Playoff Houses, we just pack our bags and move to the playoff house, and we don't come home until the playoffs are over. Now, it could be a month, it could be 2 days.
3 days?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It's tough on the Airbnb booking. How long are you going to stay? Well, it could be 2 days, but it could be a month.
That's why you got to get a buddy that has a nice little house, and he can let you stay there and do playoff housing. But I really like to watch the games unfettered, and I'm not unfettered at all. I'm very fettered.
All right, let's get back out to the phones. 833-288-0973. Terry is next up here on Ben and Woods. Good morning, Terry.
Morning, gentlemen.
Buddy.
I gotta take a little issue with some of the analogies you floated out there about Coach Melvin. You talk about a race car, about the Padres, and if Melvin's the driver, he was hitting the guardrails in the first lap of the season.
Sure.
And so if I was the owner of that racing team, I'd be looking over his shoulder and talking to him on the radio saying, hey, you're screwing this up. The other thing is...
Hold on.
Do you feel like he was given a faulty car?
Quickly, though. Were all those were all those tires perfectly matched for that car? Yeah, were the brakes working?
They were better than 500 by June.
Okay.
So I'm going to say he wasn't driving that car very well, even with what was deficient. The other thing is you walk on hands and knees for a job. You're right. But if he wants to interview for San Francisco, he's taking the easy way out with low expectations. He doesn't want to chase the ring, and he doesn't want to do the work, so screw him.
I disagree, man. I don't, and that's fine. I like your opinion. I saw a lot of this. Well, the pressure is not on Bob Melvin in San Francisco. I think it absolutely is. And really what their roster looks like on opening day, my man, is going to look a lot different. And I think the pressure is going to be just as much, if not more.
Gabe Kapler a year ago won 20 more games than the Padres have had in the last, couple years.
And we're leading the division, a lot of the time last year, or at least over the Padres, certainly. And then they fell apart. I don't think it's a pressure thing. I think if that were the case, he'd make a phone call to the guys in Kansas City and say, you want me to come there? And even that manager, Mark Kotze, still feels pressure to do a good job. I mean, because you want to keep that gig. And I don't get that sense from Melvin that he doesn't want the big moments. I mean, the first year he takes us to an NLCS, and did he have missteps along the way? 100%. You should have thrown Josh Hader. But was that on Bob Melvin or was that on Josh Hader that we're now finding out later? You just never know the true story. I don't think Bob Melvin's running from any pressure. He wants a ring. He's got a good legacy. 3-time manager of the year. Bro, he wants a ring.
Thing he's missing.
That's the only thing he's missing is that coveted World Series ring. How bad is it here that he feels he has a better chance of winning it in San Francisco?
I don't know that Bob Melvin is leaving because he thinks he's got a better chance to win a ring in San Francisco.
Well, there's other opportunities. There's a Red Sox job. There's a Mets job.
I think
there's other opportunities.
I think Bob Melvin is simply analyzing the situation where he's at right now. 1 year left on his deal in San Diego, and no offer of an extension because, as Terry mentioned, certainly didn't do a great job. Whether or not you blame Bob Melvin or not, he certainly didn't do a great job this year.
He's the only manager in this guy's tenure with winning seasons at all and an NLCS appearance in year one. And you're leaving out the biggest part of that. If there's an interpersonal conflict between him and the GM, as it's been widely reported, that's why he's leaving. No, he's not leaving because he thinks it's a better chance to win a ring.
Would you give Bob Melvin, if you were the GM of the Padres, would you give Bob Melvin a contract extension today?
I would have given him a contract extension after the NLCS appearance, 100%. And said, wow, this doesn't happen here ever. Here's 5 years. Let's go.
Well, now you're really in... You've really made the problem bigger.
How would that be a problem? I'm not going to not let Bob Melvin manage. I hired Bob Melvin so that he would manage, not so that I could pull the strings of Bob Melvin.
You're asking if Woods was the GM.
If I was the GM,
if Woods was AJ Preller.
Right. No, if I'm the GM.
But as you said it earlier, if AJ and Bob got along famously, saw eye to eye on everything, but they're still coming off this disappointing 82-80 season. There's nothing to say that Bob Melvin not being allowed to manage is why the Padres didn't win enough games.
Bob Melvin has said it, and everybody has said it anonymously to Dennis Lynn and Kevin Acee. And somebody inside the organization told me, you can't do your job if you can't do your job. That's what I'm basing it on.
I even if he had been allowed to do his job, it doesn't necessarily make Jake Cronenworth have a better season. You still had some issues. You had some roster construction issues, which are on AJ.
If I was the GM, that would be on me.
That's on AJ.
I would have taken responsibility
but
for that.
Are you offering Bob Melvin a contract extension today? I probably wouldn't.
If I would,
I'd want to see how this next season went.
It's better than losing him to a division rival, I think, in my opinion. But the thing is the relationship so fractured that if AJ said, "I'll give you a 5-year deal today," and Bob's like, "No," I would have a lot more. I don't want to.
That would be interesting.
I don't want
to. The Padres put an offer on the table and said, "You can stay here. We'll give you 3 years, or you can go interview with the Giants."
Bob said, "I'm going with the Giants."
Then that would be telling.
Correct.
But when the Padres are not offering an extension,
they're easy out though.
Then
that's
the Giants are.
Yeah.
It's not much of a decision for Bob Melvin.
The Padres want the mindset of, was it Terry that called in?
Yeah, they want that. They want that.
Screw him.
If he doesn't want to be here. That's what they want fans to think. And listen, we are all going to have to eventually, when we play the Giants next year, I hope we beat the crap out of Bob Melvin. But I'll go over and say hello and shake his hand. But I hope we beat the crap out of him. I hope we beat the crap out of him every time we play him.
So next year there will be a former Padres manager still in Colorado, a former Padres manager in San Francisco, a former Padres interim manager in Los Angeles. And Torey Lovullo, the defending at least manager that got his team to the NLCS. A lot of familiar faces around the NL West going forward.
Very much so. But I think you can't leave out, the interpersonal strife and and
it's
stuff.
definitely part of it.
I think it's all of it. I do. And you asked me if I was the GM, and I had Bob Melvin on a 3-year deal, right? This year would have given me pause. I would have been, what the hell's the matter? Because no one could ascertain what happened. Nobody. AJ didn't have any answers. Bob didn't have any answers. Saris doesn't have any answers.
Right.
Nobody had any answers.
Right. Even if in his quiet moments AJ goes, "I screwed this up pretty badly in how I put this roster together," he's still going to wonder, well, but is Bob really the right guy for the job, though?
And Bob's going to, in his quiet moments, too, go, how did I not turn this around?
Yeah, Bob said that to us. He said all of his quiet moments are thought, why didn't I wasn't able to fix
True.
it?
He did say that.
So to me, he's just making right now the logical decision. If someone else is willing to commit to him for longer than the Padres are, you absolutely have to take that phone call and go check it out. And I think he'll be the manager of the Giants later this week. All right, last time out. We still have time for a couple of more calls. 833-288-0973. What a morning it's been so far. Probably the start of a crazy offseason for the San Diego Padres. We'll be right back with more Ben and Woods on 97.3 The Fan. Sauer 97.3 The Fan is brought to you by the Caltrans Stormwater Program. Visit cleanwaterca.com. Let's change this to that by picking up after our pets, reducing pesticide use, and regularly servicing our vehicles. Learn how at cleanwaterca.com. That's cleanwaterca.com from Caltrans Stormwater. I actually had a little bit of rain last night. A little drizzle. Came out, my car was all wet because I, of course, washed it yesterday.
A little bit driving in this morning.
Yeah, just a little bit. They had some during the Loyal game last night. They said it got heavy mist up there at Torero Stadium. I wanted to bring something up, Bill. You mentioned a little while ago. You said Manny Machado, if the Padres hire a new manager, as expected, will be on his now 4th full-time manager with the Padres. And you made it sound as though, all right, now Manny's got to deal with another manager. Do you think any of the managers, Andy Green, Jay Stingler, Bob Melvin, have really treated Manny in any way differently than the others?
No,
or do they all just say, Manny, you go do your thing. You're Manny.
Yeah, I don't.
Is there any manager who wouldn't come in and say, he's Manny Machado, just go do your thing, Manny? There's no managing really of Manny Machado, essentially, correct?
Not to this point, no.
I mean, any manager can say, a well-timed comment, like Boch does, help guys slumping, keep things light, whatever.
Sure.
There's things you can do from a personality standpoint, but they're not saying, Manny, we need you to do these different drills. Manny, we're going to put you on this machine to try. I mean, no. At this point in his career, this point in Xander Bogaerts' career,
so you're basically saying the manager's useless.
I don't know that in terms of what a lot of people think the manager's going to do. There's not going to be any changes. Whoever the Padres bring in, you're going to say to Manny the first thing, yeah, you do your thing, Manny. Have a great season. We'll see. We'll see you at the start of spring training.
See you at the yard, mate. That's it.
I know you'll be ready to go, and we're going to put you out there at third as long as you're healthy every single day. Whenever you want to be out there. Every single manager in Major League Baseball is going to manage Manny Machado exactly the same way.
They should. They should. If you come in and be like, I don't know. You made the point in the break there. Do the Padres, and you see a lot of, everyone thinks they know the right combination of manager for this team. The options are experienced veteran. Well, we had that. He's now going to be the Giants manager. You've got the inexperienced person. You got plenty of those guys to choose from here. Ryan Flaherty being number one. You have that. There's Joe Espada in the chat. Joe Espada's been interviewed for 14 jobs. He's gotten 0. You got Ozzie Guillen, who won a World Series with the White Sox. He's off the cuff, but he also hasn't been sniffed really as a manager since. So that's a red flag to me. If you're not beating down the door of somebody to manage your team every year, and he's just turning down these great opportunities because they're not the right fit for him, that's not the case with Ozzie. There are guys, I think, in my opinion, there are guys that the game maybe passes by a little bit. I don't know if a manager coming in day one, turning the tables over and saying, you're overpaid, you don't work hard enough, you're this, you need to run out ground balls, blah, blah, blah. Good luck.
If I'm a superstar player in baseball and my manager calls me out, and turns over a table, I'm going to laugh at them. It's like, what are you going to do about it?
If you're Manny Machado,
I got 10 years on my deal left. I'm not going anywhere. I'll
ride you out.
I'll be here longer than you. I've ridden out 4 more. Right.
So you can't take that. You can't take that adversarial Dick Williams style tactic. You're not the enemy in their clubhouse. There are no managers who are the enemy anymore.
No. And even everyone says, like, well, look at Aaron Boone. He's always defending his players. Hey, I'd love it, man. I would love to see a guy. Bob Melvin didn't do it enough, in my opinion. I would love to see a guy that defended his players more. I would love to see a guy get a little more fiery with the umps. It's not his personality. I'm not going to make him be somebody he's not. That being said, what has that done for the Yankees? Him screaming at umpires and kicking the dirt, and my guys are savages. What has it done for him?
I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I think I agree with you.
It is shocking.
When it comes to a manager that is going to bring that intensity, not directed at his own team, not to fire up his own players,
right,
but to fire up, protect his players, to really show that
and instill it in his players to
do it with each
their
other,
own team.
to do it with 100%. Each other.
100%.
And Bob Melvin wasn't really that guy. He might have been more of it than maybe he showed to everybody.
Yeah, maybe we didn't know, but
ultimately Bob is a pretty laid back, calm, cool, collected customer. And you might need someone with a little more fire, but not brimstone at his own players, like not turning over your own tables, but that kind of Aaron Boone, I'm going to go after every umpire. I'm going to go after every opposing manager, any reliever who throws at our guys. You're going to hear me chirping at the top of the dugout every single time.
Rocco Baldelli does a good job of it. His players love him. They love playing for him. He knows they have their back. He has their back.
Now, is Mike Schultz more of that guy? I don't know that I know him well enough, but I feel like he might be more of that guy.
There's that video from when he was the Cardinals manager and Randy Arozarena, which pretty much sealed his fate. Randy filmed it on Instagram. We played it years ago on the show when he was still the manager. Randy did it, shipped him out of town for it. Probably a dumb, short-sighted move, but he's in there like red ass, like losing his mind. It's what we always talk about, what we have been, and I've been so lunatic about it. I've been listening to culture podcasts about how to get the right culture in and what is the right culture and what's the right leadership style, because I'm fascinated by it. I want to know. But that's what you hear about these guys is like Dusty Baker, Ben's a good example. He came in and kind of steadied the ship of the Astros when they were going through all the things that they did self-imposed. But I don't think he necessarily came in and changed the culture. I think the culture was already there. It was them against the world, right? And you just come in as the skipper, and you're there, and you're old school, and you have your ideas, and you pat guys on the butt, and Dusty's a really smart guy. I'm not taking anything away from him. But the culture that a manager can help create, along with having his players back, and then teaching his players, have each other's back. When your superstar captain wears 98 in the back, you know what I would have done if I was Bob Melvin that night? I wouldn't have gotten mad at the other pitcher. I would have been livid at my team. I would have lit them up. And so you can hate this guy, but he's got the Padres on the front of his uniform. You have his back. You guys sitting on your asses as our superstar gets dotted, and Fernando spends the majority of the season on his back, up and in, all the time. Nobody does anything about it. Those are the kind of things I'm talking about.
Comment here from Tanvo in our chat. Thank you, God bless. Bo Mel killed the vibe for the guys. Watch the SD versus SF series in Mexico. The team was having fun. After the Dodger series, that all went away. I don't know that he killed the vibe, but I also don't know that Bob was a vibe creator.
No.
I think some teams, if you've got a lot of guys
that was like also the last time the team even sniffed 500.
Yeah, I think if you've got a lot of players who are already emotional, who are kind of over
vibey
the top
guys,
yeah, you might want that steadying guy. I don't know that the Padres have a lot of vibey guys. They have some fun, but Manny's he's a worker. He's not a culture-y.
He's also a cheerleader, though. He's always first out of the dugout.
Yeah, he can be a cheerleader
He's first
for
out
sure.
of the dugout.
But I feel like the Padres might need to amp it up more than dial it back on their manager when it comes to that emotional intensity and vibes.
Yeah, for sure. I don't see Rob Thompson as being a big vibe. I don't think he's in there going, doing the Macarena
they don't need
and stuff.
They've got vibes galore right now on that team.
With each other.
And I don't think they need the manager to help that out. But the Padres might need a little help in the manager's office to fire people up and get that spirit revved a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. It's again, culture is first and foremost, and whoever the next person is, that needs to be of paramount importance.
Because people are bringing up, Bochy would have been nice. Bochy is more like Bo Mel.
He sits in his office. He even said it.
Bochy's the anti-vibe guy.
Who were we talking to the other day that said, "Oh, Boch, he's probably sitting in his office doing a crossword puzzle." That's where you're more likely to find Boch. Sitting in his office doing that's exactly what that's the exact kind of manager he was. They're the same guy, right? Boch has just had a lot more success.
I mean, the manager position is the news of the day. It's the news of the week. It's probably going to be the news of the offseason. But ultimately, next season, the 2024 story is going to be written on, are we running out Matt Carpenter and Rugi Odor again?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that's the problem. The problem in 2023 was roster construction, not vibes.
Yeah, it was
manager.
really thin. and really it didn't work. You tried something. I think
Matt Waldron's our 3 next year. Like, it doesn't matter. Who the hell cares who's managing that team?
Yeah, it really doesn't matter at that point. So AJ's got another. Now this is just another thing added to his plate, having to find the right guy again to hopefully turn this thing around. That coupled with adding, 4 starters, potentially redoing the bullpen, finding a first baseman. What do we do with this guy? What do we do with that guy? Who's our backup catcher? Who's our starting catcher? Is Campy healthy? I mean, that's
the job.
What's the job? It is the job, but maybe get some help. It sounds like you have a lot on your plate.
All right, we got one more check of traffic here. We'll wrap things up. Take a look ahead to tomorrow's show right after this on 97.3 The Fan.
From the 97.3 The Fan Traffic Center, here's Kelly Danick.
Not a bad wrap up for our morning drive. Just one problem near the border, northbound 5 before San Isidro Boulevard. 2-car collision blocking the fast lane. I'm Kelly Danick with Ben and Woods, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
Just a little housekeeping. We'll have the Westwood 1 Monday Night Football game for you tonight here on 97.3 The Fan and the Odyssey app. Coverage begins at 4:30. It's the 49ers and the Vikings. Then Thursday, have the Bucks and the Bills for you. Also, of course, every Friday, you can listen to Boomer and Valenti preview all the weekend's action at 6 p.m. Here on 97.3 The Fan. It is presented nationally by Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos, brought to you by those who drink it, and by Lowe's. Lowe's knows home improvement. My question is, I'm assuming both series end tonight, right? We know the ALCS is ending tonight. That's 100%. And I'm going to say that with Nola on the mound, the Diamondbacks put up a fight, but ultimately a bomb or two is the difference, and you can't contain that Phillies team enough right now. This stat blew my mind. Did you look at the slugging percentages for the top 3 guys in the Phillies order this postseason?
It's absurd.
It's ridiculous. 690, 756, and 771. That's Schwarber, Turner, Harper's slugging percentage, not their OPS. Their slugging percentage. Their OPSs are all over 1,000. The 3 guys in the order.
It's the dream, dude.
Do you think... I've been wondering this because I'm watching Adolis Garcia and Yordan Alvarez and Harper and Schwarber, and when they all come up, they're terrifying. If you're a fan of the opposing team, anytime one of those guys steps to the plate, terrified, right? That something bad is going to happen.
The fact that S'mores got Alvarez on 3 pitches last night, I almost had a heart attack. I couldn't believe it. I just knew he was.
I mean, they all make outs, but they're terrifying when they come up to the plate.
Imposing, yeah.
Are the Padres terrifying? Is Manny Machado terrifying?
No,
when he's at
recency
the plate?
bias tells us that they're
Shouldn't
not.
they be, though? Shouldn't Fernando Tatis Jr. be terrifying when he steps to the plate? Juan Soto, terrifying when he steps to the plate. Even Xander Bogaerts.
Recency bias in my head goes,
I know.
Let's see, Manny's going low and away slider. He's done. Toddy's swinging at one of his eyes. Xander's feeble rollout, and Soto's going to feebly weak out to first.
It's not like those guys didn't all make tons of outs. Schwarber hit under 200.
Sure.
I mean, Harper had long struggles over the course of the season. He went like 3 months where he hit like 2 homers.
Yeah, but the perception
in the middle of the season. But right now, they're terrifying. And I do feel like the Padres, those guys, have it in them in stretches that they can be just as terrifying. I just don't know that we've seen it quite often enough.
We'll look forward to that, Greg. Yeah, when that happens with regular.
I want to see a terrifying Tatis.
Me too.
That's what I'm waiting for.
Just a locked in.
Yeah.
Just you're dead. It's
the last time we really
gas
saw
to gap.
Like right-handed Barry Bonds coming to the plate, and you are just dead when he is.
I felt that way in
the plate.
2020. Like in the playoffs, he hit like 2 home runs that one game against the
Cardinals.
Soto's got it.
Late season last year was as close to terrifying and something good. He's about to hit the ball 112 miles an hour. It may be on a line, it may be over the fence, but
I want it for Manny. That's what I want it for.
Yeah,
I want him.
And we
to
saw
go
that
through
2 seasons ago. Manny was pretty terrifying a lot of the year when he was having his near MVP season. They've all got it in them, but we've never seen like the Phillies have right now, just all at the same time, and there's no quarter for the opposing pitcher, and it's just terrifying batter after terrifying batter, one after the other.
And it's just so much more proof that you have to sign Juan Soto. You have to have that lefty guy in your batting order, Ben, that is capable of that. And that's Juan Soto. And it just makes me so nervous to think about the future of this team without him on it. Especially when you watch what the lefties are doing with Yordan, with Bryce, with Schwarber. And he's as good or better. I mean, he's way better than Schwarber. right? You'd rather have Soto than Schwarber.
The Phillies, they won 90 games. The Rangers won 90 games. The Astros won 90 games. None of those teams were head and shoulders above anyone else in baseball, including the Padres over the regular season. So there's not some divide. You're not going over the Grand Canyon to get from one side to the other here.
No, if you're the Royals fan, you're like, oh, we're dead. We're never getting there.
But it's not a Grand Canyon here. It's just maximizing what you've got going forward. All right, keep it tuned to 97.3 The Fan all day. If there are any other Bob Melvin-esque developments, of course, the coach and Gwen and Chris will have all of those for you. We'll talk about any updates tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. and, of course, break down Game 7 of the ALCS, Game 6 of the NLCS, Monday Night Football. We didn't talk about anything that happened in the NFL over the weekend yet. We got tons to get to the rest of this week. Great job, executive producer, imaging director Paul Reindl. For Stephen Woods, I'm Ben Higgins. Have a great rest of your Monday from all of us here at San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.